Hey, Jim Toscano here, and welcome to the Monday night live stream, Filling in the Grooves, which has really evolved into a drum hang and conversation show. Earlier on, it was kind of just me playing drums and sharing ideas from my book, and then it's really evolved into all these interviews. And actually, I'm gonna just give you a rundown of the next four that are coming up, and then I'll tell you about my guest tonight. So coming up on Monday, October 4th, Hall & Oates drummer Brian Dunn, good friend of mine. Wednesday, October 13th at 11 a.m., a weird time for the Monday night live stream, Billy Cobham. Well, he's in Switzerland, so we couldn't do it at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That would have been a problem. So October 13th, Billy Cobham. Monday, October 18th, it's going to be me and Jeff Salem, who is a drummer and also owns a hot sauce company, and we're going to do a thing where we eat all the hot wings with all his different sauces, talk about hot sauce and drums. That's going to be bananas. And then on Monday, October 25th, from Zappa fame, Ralph Humphrey's on the show. So that's the next few coming up. And then two new ones to the calendar, Mike Clark very soon. We're waiting on a date. And my good buddy Rodney Howard from Avril Lavigne's band. So we're going to have some really good hangs coming up. Just want to bring you up to speed on that. And I also want to mention my sponsors, ProLogic practice pads, offset pedals, Sabian cymbals, Black Magic designs for my switchers and monitors, all that good stuff. Of course, my book, Filling in the Grooves. Check it out. Oh, and this is Nate Morton's CDs. I had Nate on the show a couple weeks ago. Fraud Profits, Poptosis. This is really amazing. And I have Dom's Pad Sticks, which I wanted to give a plug for Dom's Pad Sticks because these are pretty amazing. I was at Dom's studio yesterday helping him produce a segment for Modern Drummer, and he gave me some of his pad sticks. Those are awesome. All right, let's get to it. Here we go, people. So my guest tonight is Ryan Brown, who's the drummer from the resident drummer for Dweezil Zappa's band, which has gone from Zappa Plays Zappa to the many people that have been in the band and different names for the band, but I'm super excited to have him as a guest tonight. He's an incredible drummer, an amazing educator. He's also plays on the West Coast with the Young Royals, Fuxitos, Karam, to name a few. He's also recorded with Alex Lifeson. What? We have to get into that. I can't believe that. That's pretty amazing. And he's on the faculty at MI. And he also teaches private lessons. And he's from Denver, Colorado. And he's played drums and percussion since he's 11 years old. My guest tonight, Ryan Brown. And here he is. All right, enough of that. Welcome
That was
to
incredible.
the show. I like my new bumper music. By the way, ladies, he's not single and not ready to mingle. So the dating game music was inappropriate. I take that back. I apologize. We did it.
I love it.
We're together. It's been
We're here. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to see you.
Holy moly, we've been planning this for quite some time, right? I mean, it's been in the months. I'm not sure how many months, but we've been planning this for some time, and we finally pulled it off. And I can tell you that our stream is going beautifully over on YouTube. I'm looking right now. It's going beautiful over on Facebook. I'm looking over there right now. Excellent. So, Ryan, what is happening?
Well, it's great to see you. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. We're going to have some fun talking about drums. What's better than that?
Oh, my God. Nothing. Yeah, we actually recorded a little bumper while we were hanging before about drums. So we're probably going to play that on the Instagram, on the IGTV channel. So what's been going on, man? I mean, since, we've kind of spoke over the last year during COVID and kind of seeing what's going on and how we're taking care of things. Everybody's tours got shut down, everything got shut down. And I know, people are probably sick about talking about that, but I just want to know, for me as well, kind of what you've been up to, how things are evolving for Dweezil's project and maybe some of the other projects. I saw you on Instagram posted something where you're playing some metal and really killing it with that. So maybe we'll talk about that project as well. So just bring us up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, well, thanks. So we were on the road when everything got shut down. Our last show was in Tarrytown, New York, the Tarrytown Music Hall. and we had 57 shows canceled. So we drove. I live in LA. The band sort of split between where the band and crew lives. So we drove back from New York on the bus. Took 75 hours on the bus, in case
Of
you're
course,
wondering.
yeah.
was the driver, the driver has to sleep, right?
Exactly.
So we got home, and then the tour, was rescheduled, and so now at this point it's going to be sometime in 2022
Okay.
when we go back out. So we were here. In all, I had like over 80 shows canceled between Dweezil and everybody else, but it was great to be home with the family after being gone for so long over the years. So that was definitely the silver lining.
Yeah, the silver lining. And I think a lot of people found that even, speaking to guys like Dave Weckl, who, he had his whole chick thing was shut down at that point. And a lot of guys kind of reinvented how they approach what they do for this time that we were kind of stuck, right? So people got their home recording set up better, or they got their online drum schools set up better, or, perhaps online lessons, which a lot of people are coming to me to teach them how to do that. I teach almost like 50% drum teachers at this point. It's really bananas.
Wow.
So how did that evolve for you? Now the shutdown happens, you're grounded. Of course, we're happy to be with our families.
Yes.
But how do you reinvent, the Ryan wheel?
So the first part of it, so I have a 9-year-old daughter. So the first part was all the homeschool stuff with her, which, was great to be with her, like I said, after, being gone so much over the last number of years. So I've been playing with Dweezil now for over 8 years, which is crazy, which is amazing. Time flies when you're having fun. I've done 479 shows with him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. So that's dream gig for me. I still, when we play, I sit there and I've been a fan of his forever, since high school. Also, all his solo material. I know all his solo material, and Confessions is one of my favorite records ever. If you guys don't know that, go check that out. That's Josh Freese playing on it. And I think he was like 17 or 18 when he was playing on that record.
Oh my God.
He was really young, and that's always been one of my favorites. So very, very, lucky to do all that. So anyway, we got sent home, was doing the homeschool thing. And then I started doing a whole bunch of session stuff. And for me, I was trying to figure out a safe way to do it. And with a couple of buddies of mine that have studios, we figured out I could go in the drum room, they could go in the control room. This is in the early days when nobody knew what was happening, and we could be apart and still record. At a couple different studios. There was one in particular, one studio that I started going to all the time, and stuff started to come in, and that was great. And we had a lot of fun, and I did a lot of session stuff over with my good friend B at the studio here in Glendale, and that was really, really fun to do that. All kinds of different projects, including a bunch of stuff for Carmine Rojas, phenomenal bass player, who is David Bowie's bass player, amongst many other people. But he's on the Let's Dance record.
Oh wow!
And did some stuff for him. I've known him for probably 10 years or so, and did some stuff with Karam. And Alex Lifeson actually played on one of those songs that we did.
Oh my God.
Which is still mind blowing. And did some stuff for actually one of my cousins, who's a musician, doing a record, and a bunch of other stuff. And yeah, so I kind of morphed into that, doing all the studio stuff, and then local gigs started to kind of sprinkle back in, and then that kind of got shut down again. But I just focused on doing the session stuff and staying at home and being with my family, and now everything's on the up and up, which has been great. Yeah. So I've had tons of local stuff come back. But like I said, we're not going out with Dweezil again until sometime in 2022. I will keep everybody posted.
Yeah.
I get questions about that a lot. So the second I know any firm dates, trust me, I will post them.
It's funny because I went to his website and I was like, where's the tour dates? I'm clicking all over the place. I'm like, why would he hide them? I'm like, he's being so cryptic. So it's just not happening yet. All right.
Yeah. Well, and so part of that is he just finished his home studio
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier. It's not a home studio like anybody else I know. It is an unbelievable studio that happens to be on his property that was formerly his backyard. So
Wait. So the home studio started with building a building on the grounds of his property.
yes, yeah, he built a new house on his property, and
Whoa.
a whole new house. He leveled and built a new house, and then put a new studio there. And the studio is absolutely unbelievable. And I've been going over a lot, working with him on getting sounds, and he's got a couple of different kits there. And some of you may be familiar with the Drumbrella, Eric Valentine's Drumbrella, and he has one built into the drum room there. So, and if you don't know what that is, it's essentially what Dweezil does. He built a ceiling that can be lowered electronically. So it's on these chains that can be lowered in the drum room. And I've been playing drums since I was 11. I've never had a situation where I've been playing, and while I'm playing, the dimensions of the room are changing.
Oh my God.
And it's amazing. And as it comes down, it's like more low end, more low end, more low end, more low end. And then all of a sudden, it's like right above my head, and I'm 6'3", and we finished, and he's like, "Hey, come in and check it out. Check out the sounds." I'm like, "Cool." Oh man, I nail my head on the drumbrella. I forget it's there.
Oh my God.
Now I'm used to it. Now he's like, "Come in," and I'm like, I'm like, okay.
Oh my God. I have to tell you, man, like I thought, I play with a songwriter named Roger Street Friedman, and he built a really beautiful facility in his house, and I thought his place was like amazing because on the console, if you hit a button, the speakers rise up from behind the console, and I was like, whoa! Wow. I was like, that's really cool, but he doesn't have a movable ceiling. That's like pretty amazing. Oh my God.
That's pretty cool though. I've never been in a place that has that.
Yeah, like the near field monitors, he brings them up, and he's got these giant ones that are built into the wall, but the little ones, they all come rising out of the floor.
I love it. I'll tell Dweezil about that.
Yeah, tell him he's got to get the speakers moving. Oh my God.
Yeah, so his place is now certified for Dolby Atmos. And he's been working, I won't say what, but he's been working on some amazing stuff, including some shows that we've done. He's been remixing them, putting them out. If you go to his website, you can get a bunch of music, and he's been releasing snippets of shows and full shows since we haven't been on the road.
And it's in Dublin. It's in Dublin. It's in Dublin.
Yes.
You know the reference?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's like one of those references that like young musicians are just going to be like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, what's going on?
That was a Spinal Tap reference, people. Okay.
I love it.
Oh my God.
So yeah, he's been remixing a bunch of stuff. I think he just posted the other day a couple of versions of "Who Are the Brain Police."
Oh, cool.
Because we do different versions of songs, different eras, different live versions. So he was just working on a couple of those in surround. But he's got like 5 subwoofers and 11 speakers and 4 on the ceiling. And I mean, it's
my God,
it's unbelievable. So yeah, one day I went over and a few of us were there, and we just pulled up songs and just listened to music through the system for a few hours because it sounds so great. So yeah, there.
On this topic, I have to ask you because there's a DVD, there's a Frank DVD that I have, or a Dweezil DVD, I don't know, where he's sitting Dweezil is sitting at the board and he's playing original masters of Frank's music, and he's able to solo stuff, right? Which I'm sure he's got, tons of that stuff. But have you ever been sitting in the room at the board with him when he's soloing up parts of tunes, doing some sort of analysis to get ready for playing those tunes, or even just for the fun of it? But
yeah, I've done that with him, but not with the Frank material. Like I've done it with other stuff when I've been over there. But for example, when we get ready for a tour, he will send us one audio file that's about 3 hours long. It's like a 3-hour long MP3, and he'll send us the set list. And then it'll be every song in order, in the show order, the word that we'll start with on the tour. And it could be, a live version from '84 of a song, and then the studio version, whatever, from a song from Joe's Garage. And then the next one's a live version from the '88 band.
And doesn't he sometimes say, hey, but we're going to, in the solo section, we're going to do what was done on this recording from this year. So he's mixing versions within tunes. Is that true?
Yes, that happens a lot. Yeah, you're right. Well, the default will be, let's say, like an 82 live version, but then he found something from like 1974 where they Frank had them insert this really cool solo section. So we'll do the solo section from 74 inside of the 82 live
Oh my
version.
God.
Yeah, it's so fun because I've listened to that stuff since I was 13.
Right, right.
So
So you
yeah,
just
it's
you
it's
just
great.
open up the top of your head and pull out from the file cabinet of Zappa material. You're-
Yes.
It's like, oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, so there'll be, and then there's a bunch of hand signals and
Right.
cues and things that mean different things that can come in at any point. But
And I have to say, man, this version of the band, it grooves so hard. And I think what a lot of people don't realize about that music, and I've, as you've seen, I've been out on shows where I've brought 10 students, and I bring all these kids out to see it, and I'm like, man, you really have to see what's going on to understand and to wrap your head around, not only the spirit, the improvisational spirit of the band, but all this amazing groove material that's there. I mean, Frank's influences were like incredible, everything from doo-wop to funk to jazz to Stravinsky, like all mixed up in a goulash, if you will. But everything grooves so super hard, and some of my older students were like, oh my God, I didn't realize how funky some of the stuff is, or how it grooves just so hard. And speak to that. I mean, just as far as a rhythm section, approaching the material and bringing your flavor, all of your spices into the mix,
oh man, well, first of all, thanks for coming to the shows and for bringing students. Yeah, Jim's awesome. He's been to a number of shows and brought a whole bunch of students to check it out. And I guess the first thing I like to say is, for me, there's been a bunch of bands where I didn't really get it, and then when I saw it live, I was like, oh, whoa, now I get it. So I feel like Frank's music is a lot like that.
Is Steve doing paradiddles, by the way?
Yes. So yeah. So can you hear it? Is it loud?
It's low. I just hear a zucka. So if anybody's wondering, there's some drumming coming from the other room in Ryan's place there. So you just have to deal with it. Don't worry. It's just drums, man. We're all drummers.
It's just I'll get a little closer. Yeah. So, yeah. I share a rehearsal room in North Hollywood with two other drummers, Kevin Stevens and David Pinder, if you guys know them. And Kevin and I have had this room for like 13 years. And so, yeah, I told Jim when we started, I was like, there's a chance somebody might come in and practice. So,
well, he's one of my coaching students, so he gets a free pass.
So, yeah, nice. So yeah, if it gets too loud, though, let me know and I can try and figure something out.
It's all good.
So yeah, I was thinking about it when you said that. So a big band for me, like that was, and some of you will laugh, was the Beatles. Right. So I was never into the Beatles. No reason. I just never listened to it. My parents didn't listen to it. And everybody, I get to college and everybody's, Beatles. But I was like, I just don't know it. I didn't hate it. I just didn't know. So when I moved to LA in 1999, there was a band called the Lads that played at this club called Cafe Cordial right near my apartment. And it was Greg Bissonette on drums. Right. So it's Greg Bissonette and then his brother Matt Bissonette, Rocket Rashad on guitar, and Brett Tuggle on keys. As you can imagine, they were really good.
Yeah, you think?
And they played it all just like the record. And so Greg, told me, he was like, hey, come over, we're doing this thing. And so I went over, and it took me seeing it performed live. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I get it. Now I get it. So that was just me. So I feel like Frank's music is, all music is like that in general, but I think especially Frank's music, I feel like is like that. Because a lot of people don't know where to start. Yeah. Because there's so many records. Frank, sadly died when he was 52, so he started releasing records when he was 26. So in the 26 years that he was making records, he released 62 records. That's 62 in 26 years.
That's insane.
Which is totally insane. So a lot of people ask me, they're like, where should I start? And I'm like, well, so I have my favorite spots, but it's, other people have their own favorites,
Yeah.
So I've, that was my experience with Greg and seeing the Beatles sing live. So I think, yeah, if you're not into it and you come to see us, it's a good way to kind of get into the music.
And it's sort of like you take something like Peaches and Regalia, and it's like if you hear the original recording, which that record, like some of the original recordings, and also a record like Chunga's Revenge, where it sounds a little raw, kind of, and not dated, but just from a sonic perspective, it's a little bit dark. And when you guys play that stuff, you put this heavier sort of groove on it that just feels like it got modernized just enough where it still pays respect to the original thing. But like I said before, man, you're dumping all your spices on it, and it just hits the audience in a new way, I think. And I feel so happy that I could bring young kids out to see it, and they go like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this!" They're so excited.
Well, thanks. Yeah. So going back to your original question, Kat, so what I try to do, or we all try to do, is so we learn it all like the record,
right?
Whatever version that he wants to do in the show, and so I'll transcribe it. And some of the stuff there's charts for, but there's not charts for a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Double bass.
He's going for it over there.
Go.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's charts for a few things, but not a lot. So I'll transcribe, and even if there's a chart for it, I'll transcribe it anyway.
Right.
Because it helps me really, really get inside of the tune. Right.
Do you write out, like, are you transcribing, like I transcribed Peaches and Regalia for one of my students, Lauren. You met Lauren. And,
yeah.
Because she wanted to play it exactly like the record. Ron Wisco, right, on drums?
Ron Celico.
Oh, Ron Celico, not Wisco. Ron Celico. And so I wrote out every ghost note. I mean, everything. So are you writing out every little nook and cranny, or are you making more of a reference chart?
So good question. Depends on what tune it is.
Right.
And so a lot of times I will do it note for note, and maybe if it's a tune we've done before, but it's a different version, I've kind of got into it already. So I'll do more of a form chart, and maybe it's a live version that Wackerman played on.
Right.
But the original is Ralph, who you're going to have on in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I'll try to do Chad's approach to Ralph. So it's like me doing Chad doing Ralph.
And then are you quoting Ralph inside of your Chad?
Yes, I will. And then when it gets to the solo section on any of these tunes, then I will then it kind of frees up, and then I'll add more of kind of my own stuff into it.
Yeah.
Mixed with, if it's a Chad tune, kind of mixed with the Chad, or if there's, certain things that I just love about the original Ralph recordings, I'll kind of throw that in. So that kind of becomes more of the, stirring the pot, so to speak, like you mentioned earlier, the goulash of the players on that stuff.
Wow.
But so it depends. I brought my huge transcription book here. I can grab a couple of them if you want to see some of them.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
I was on the way to the house. I was like, you know what? I'll just kind of throw this in.
By the way, there's a great Rhythm Magazine article that you did, not Rhythm, Drum Magazine article, where you did the groove analysis from Frank Zappa's drummers, and there's a video. Is there PDFs with that, or is it just the video?
That's a good question. There's not PDFs, but I should be able to provide those. I've got all that stuff. If anybody wants anything, just write me. I'm easily accessible, and I can hook you up if.
And Ryan's website is in the description of this live stream, and it will be in all of the archived video footage. So you can go to Ryan's website and check this stuff out. And by the way, that video that I just mentioned from Drum Magazine is amazing. Definitely check it out. It's really worth watching.
Thank you. It's really the difficult part about that was picking songs, because there's so many songs. So I had a couple of buddies that were helping me with that, and one of them was my really good friend who did the article, David Silver, and we're like, where do you even start? Like, if somebody doesn't know a lot about it, what do you try to do? So that was really fun, kind of trying to figure those out. But here I grabbed the first thing I grabbed. So there's a live version of Yellow Snow, but this is what
Oh, that's great. That looks like on the charts I write for club dates.
Yeah,
Oh
right.
God.
Like it's a live thing. So we've already done the studio one, so many times. So
we just got a subscriber, Mike Ramsey. Thank you, Mike Ramsey.
Mike Ramsey is awesome. Thank you, Mike Ramsey.
Thank you, Mike.
Quick Mike Ramsey shout out. Mike Ramsey's an amazing drummer who plays in a Rush tribute band and other bands. He's on the road right now with an AC/DC band, and he's Mike Ramsey. Awesome.
All right. So
yeah,
I see the reference groove in the top left corner.
Yeah.
Doom doom got go 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 that right. So you put that in. You got time signature and then bars, tempo. Title,
and then little fills, little notes, hits down here if there's like a unison thing going on that I have to grab.
Right.
So just for one example of not like a fully notated. Here this is gonna look pretty funny. Here's Son of Mr. Green Jeans.
Oh wow!
With like a million little notes, so it's like the more you get into it, and the more
it's scribblings of I'm gonna play this here. Oh my god!
And a lot of times for me, it's learn it. The way I kind of see it is it's like an animation cell. So it's like if you ever into the animation stuff, there's like one sheet of yellow, one sheet of red, one sheet of blue, all these different colors. So it's like I write down whatever the first layer is, and then I've got it internalized.
Right.
So I don't really need to see that anymore. So even when I look at it, I don't see it. And then I'm like, okay, let's dig deeper. What's the next layer?
Yeah.
And I'll write the next layer and I see that. And then we'll play it. I'm like, wait, no, I need to grab this. And there's this bar and this bar. And Kurt, our bass player, is doing something on, bar 4 of verse 3. So I need to check and see what's happening there. So I'll approach it like that sometimes, or I'll do like what you do with Peaches. I'll just do it, note for note.
Yeah. I mean, those tunes, especially because I'm teaching them to a student. Like I wrote out Token of My Extreme. I wrote that out. Every little nook and cranny is in there. And I sort of wrote it in like quarters and eighths to simplify for students to read it. Instead of like writing it in sort of a 16th note based thing. So it's written like really wide and big. But do you ever go back to some of those, like Vinny recordings and just go like, all right, I really want to get what he played in there and then write all that stuff out?
Yes. Yeah. So especially the Vinny stuff, I've done it all like note for note. And I'll get, way in there and, there's so many little things. I mean, there's so many little bass drum notes, little ghost notes, little things here and there. They really, really add to the whole thing, for all those guys. So I will definitely do that.
Did you ever write out the outro from Greasy? Because it's really funny. Like, so those grooves are great. So I've transcribed the grooves, but then on the outro, he starts playing all this cross rhythmic stuff against the time.
Again, yeah.
And that's where it's like, he's playing all these like, 5 sort of phrases, right, against it.
Yeah.
And then at the very end in the fade out, he sort of comes in and like nails it down to a simplified groove.
Yeah.
Right.
The simplified thing.
The simplified version, which I've written out that one. So that must be super fun. I mean, I'm such a drum nerd. I love writing that stuff out. Nate Morton just sent me a track that was like a pop track from the 80s that Vinny played on. I can't remember the artist at the moment, but I bookmarked it. And there's this crazy tricky fill right before the last chorus. And so I'm going to go write that out. I just love that stuff. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what it was. It because one of my favorite Vinny recordings ever is a Gino Vanelli record called Nightwalker.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
It's not like that.
Not that one. Okay.
No. Who's the artist? And it wasn't Gino Vanelli. I can't remember who the artist was. It was somebody that I just wasn't familiar with. And then actually I turned him on to, I don't know if you know this, but and Nate had never heard of it, the Nick Kershaw record, The Works.
Oh, I don't know that.
And I'm going to send it to you. And it's hard to get because it's
cool.
it's a foreign release now. So I'll send you an MP3. Don't tell anybody.
I won't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone. And there's just this groove in 3 with this great just Vinny stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a pop record.
Yeah, which is so great. If anybody watching, if you don't know the Gino Vanelli record Nightwalker, when this is done, the first thing you need to do is go check out that record.
All right, you
Like
hear that, guys? Make sure you do that.
I've worshipped that record forever, and it's Jim. It's like you just said. It's like it's pop, and then all of a sudden it's like it's fusion. All of a sudden there's all this crazy Vinny stuff, and then it goes back to pop.
Right.
And there's so many amazing things. Yeah. One time on the bus, we put it on, and Adam Minkoff, our singer and multi-instrumentalist, he's also a great drummer, and we just sat there and we both air drummed to the whole record. It was super fun.
Man, I have to mention something about Adam, and that's I saw you guys again. I'm trying to remember the town. I can't remember the town, but I brought a bunch of students, and you came out to the bus that night, said hello to all the students, which was very cool. And then after the show, they got to meet you and do autographs. And the only one that didn't come out, I think Sheila wasn't feeling good and didn't come out afterwards. But they got to meet Dweezil, and you guys are so generous with meeting students that way. That was great. But at that show, it was one of the early nights that I think Ben was still playing with the band, and Adam came out on stage to play a few tunes, and he kind of stayed on. He stayed on. And you guys had a vocal group that came out and sang with you that night, all male vocal group. And
was that the Persuasions?
Yes,
I think that was yeah. I'm trying to remember. That was like in New Jersey.
Yeah, it was somewhere in New Jersey. I
like,
can't remember.
Montclair, maybe.
It might have been in Montclair. Right? Yeah. It's it was right. And I brought a whole bunch of folks, and Adam came out, and he had a drum on stage. He played a snare part, maybe cowbells and blocks in a couple of tunes. He sang, and I was like, oh my God, he sounds just like Frank. And then and he played guitar, and he played a bunch of stuff. And I think Ben was still in the band. I think it was Ben. Maybe it wasn't Ben. Who's playing horns and singing later? Montclair. Who would that have been?
That was Adam. Oh, so David Luther played sax and sang for a while, but I don't think he was there the same time as Adam.
Adam only played part of the night.
Wait, you know what? Actually, at that show with that group, we had a horn section that night that only did like 3 shows.
Okay.
I think that's maybe what it was. And it's some friends of Adam's that live around the New York area.
Oh, okay. So that was my introduction to Adam, was that show.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, man, that's very cool. And I loved his vocal approach. And then I went and checked him out and watched some of his YouTube stuff. And he's a super talented musician.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's super talented. He's always writing, always recording. He plays every instrument.
Yeah,
He'll do a lot of things. It's just him doing all the instruments.
Right.
He did a really cool record. He's done a bunch of really cool records. But there's one of all Morricone songs.
Wow.
There was a Stravinsky record that he did.
Oh my God.
So yeah. Adam Minkoff, for those of you watching, check him out. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. Man, I don't even know where we were headed at that point.
Weird. Let's see.
But we were talking about your charting.
We're talking about Vinny. I think I derailed us with Gino Vanelli.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about the transcribing and going down the Vinny rabbit hole.
Quick side note about Vinny, because it's crazy. So he's sat in with us twice.
Right, with Tal Wilkenfeld.
Once was with Tal. Yeah, and so that night when Tal was there, it was like he and Tal played a tune.
Yeah.
He and Kurt played a tune. And then me and Tal played a tune. It was like we all just kind of like did like a rotation thing. But I'll tell you what. Clearly, we've all worshipped him forever, and it's a totally different thing when you're standing right behind him and you're 2 feet away and you're watching him play a song that you've played 100 shows in a row.
Wow.
And it's just. It was just mind blowing just watching him just do his thing.
And he's not really playing anything like what he played probably on the record. He's playing Vinny. He's doing his thing.
It's all totally. Yeah, I remember at sound check, we he and Kurt played Outside Now from Joe's Garage, and I remember he started. It got to the guitar solo section at the end, and I remember we were all just looking at each other, shaking our heads,
Oh
like
my God.
what is happening right now?
I can't even
It's
imagine.
just-
That's
it
insane.
was amazing, and I'll say this was incredible when he sat down because I'm considerably taller than he is, and so when
Yeah.
he got there, I said, "Move anything you want." I was like,
Right, right.
you're the man. You're the man. You want to raise the snare, raise the throne, lower the throne, whatever you want to do. Like just do whatever you want. And it was incredible. And he looks at me. And he's like, Ryan, hold on, give me 5 minutes. He turns around. He plays for 5 minutes. He looks at me. He's like, I'm good. He didn't move
Nice.
one thing. And
Unbelievable.
I was like, that's. I mean, he's the man. I mean, and he's like the consummate professional inside that as well, where he worked his way up through the ranks in LA, and I'm sure sat in on a million gigs, and he told me, he's like, I don't want to move your stuff. I was like, but you can, it's okay, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
move it. He was like,
Please
no,
make yourself
I'm not
comfortable.
gonna move it. Yeah, like, yeah. And so that was really amazing. Just
You know what's
him as a
amazing
person.
about him? Just one more thing, and this is your interview, and we're both like nerding out on Vinny. But you ever see, if you look at the Joan Rivers show stuff?
Yeah,
So,
yes,
and there's a compilation that somebody
yes.
put together of all the intro fills from the theme of the show, right? So anybody that doesn't know that, look up Vinny compilation, Joan Rivers, something like that, and you'll see
Yeah.
every night he played some other wickedly tricky, nutty fill that kicked off the tune, and the band had to hang with that. Like everybody was just like on edge. Oh my God.
It's so amazing. One of my favorite parts of that is Jimmy Johnson. One of my favorite bass players ever is the bass player, not in all the shows, but I don't know, like what 90% of those that
Most
are
of
going
them.
by in the clips. And it's like when the fill comes, you can see him kind of turn, and he's kind of like looking away and kind of like, all right, like he's trying to make sure he's in time while Vinny's doing some 5/4 thing on national TV.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Johnson, by the way, one of my favorite bass players as well. And so talented. I saw him at PASIC not that long ago play with Chad Wackerman, Jimmy Johnson, and I forget he was on guitar. Damn, I don't remember. But amazing stuff. Always killer.
Yeah, really, really, really great. Always.
Um,
Um,
so I need to ask you about the audition.
yeah.
Which I know you've been asked about this, but I just like, because you always hear about the Frank auditions, and actually, I mean, at NAMM a few years ago, Dom Famularo did the sessions panel with Steve Vai and Vinny Colaiuta, and they talked about that experience, and a lot of people will talk about that experience as being a hugely nerve-wracking thing, and and Vinny's description was pretty funny. But so
Yeah.
what was that experience like? So now you're coming into the band, basically replacing Joe Travers at that point, right? And
Yeah.
and so, they've been out playing for a bit already, pretty tight unit. And is Pete still in the band playing bass at that point?
No, he left a year before I got there.
Oh, so Pete Griffin
I,
was
I
already
know him.
gone.
I've played with him around LA.
Yeah,
Here,
he's
but
great
he
too.
was. Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was. It was. So Kurt was playing bass. He'd done it for like 1 year
Okay. Yeah.
at that point.
And so now, what was the audition process? Did you have prepared material? Was it stuff thrown in front of you? A mix of both?
So okay. So when it all went down. So a quick backstory, which is sort of a good lesson that I tell a lot of my students also, because you never know ever what's going to happen or how your career is going to go. Like you can't dictate it. It just happens. You play drums because we love playing music, and you just see what happens. So when I first moved to LA in '99, so I went to Indiana University and got a degree in jazz studies and percussion, and I played on a cruise ship for a year, and then I came here in '99. So the second day I was here, I got invited to go to a party at the Green Jello rehearsal facility. Some of you may know the band Green Jello, and actually there's like on the song, Little Pigs. Some of you might know that, Three Little Pigs. It's Danny Carey and Maynard on that song, like, from a
What?
long time ago.
Oh wow.
So I've been here for 2 days. I go to the Green Jello place and I meet this guy there named Pete Jones. And we hit it off immediately, and we bonded immediately over our love of Frank Zappa and our love of Huey Lewis and the News,
Wow.
which is like,
I was not
you can't
expecting
get.
that, but let's go with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, well, yeah, which is, for me when I was a little kid playing, they were definitely my favorite band, and Bill Gibson is to me like one of the most underrated drummers of all
By the
time.
way, side note, did you ever see the mashup? There's this bunch of videos. I can't remember who puts them out, but it's Huey Lewis and the News mixed with Metallica.
With
Have you seen that?
Metallica, yeah, yeah, it was amazing. I
What's it
watched that
called?
like 10 times in a row when someone sent it
Hip
to me.
be the
Yeah.
Sandman.
Hip to, yes, yeah, it's so good. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, YouTube that. That's pretty amazing.
Look up Hip to be the Sandman. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
So Pete and I become best friends like at this party, and and I'm like, I just moved here, I don't know anybody in LA, and so he was leading a jam session, and Pete had a bunch of bands, so we play together all the time, hang out. So that was in 99. In 06, he gets called to work with Dweezil. When Dweezil starts, Zappa plays Zappa. And so Pete calls me and he's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe, because, we're diehard Frank fans. And I've never seen the music. I'd seen Project Object a couple of times, the Grandmothers of Invention a couple of times.
Right.
I never got to see Frank. And so he calls me, he's like, oh, you're not going to believe this. Dweezil's putting this band together. And I knew, I've been a fan of Joe Travers forever. I was like, oh, it's going to be Joe, right? He's like, yeah, it's Joe. And the band's amazing, doing all Frank stuff. So, I freak out. And he's like, I'm going to work for the band. I'll get you into shows when I can. So we were just super excited. He's got this killer gig, working for Dweezil, and he gets to, listen to Frank music all night, and so he was the drum tech, and then he was stage manager, tour manager, and started doing a bunch of stuff for Dweezil behind the scenes. But Pete is a phenomenal instrumentalist in his own right. So I go to shows as a fan. So I probably saw ZPZ 15 times, I'm guessing, before I got in the band.
So like the early days when Bozio was still coming out on stage and Steve Vai was still coming out on stage, right?
They were there. The first, I actually, because of Pete, went to some of the early rehearsals and saw that. And then the first show I went to, Bozio had torn his bicep muscle and couldn't play. And so he just sang. Right? He came out and showed his arm, and it was all black and blue and
oh my
gnarly.
God.
And I was like, ah.
And Billy was playing percussion?
Billy was playing percussion. Yeah.
I missed that when he was
killing it. Yeah, Billy's
oh my
amazing.
God. He was amazing.
So that was in 06. And then in 2013, I'm teaching at MI one day here in Hollywood, and I was in between classes, and I my phone's ringing, and I get a call. It's from Pete. I answer the phone. It's like, hey Pete, what's up? Oh, sorry, let me back up 1 second. I told him in 06, I said, nothing's ever gonna happen. Joe's gonna be there forever, but if something happens, you have to call me. And he's like, oh yeah, I know. We're both like, but that won't happen.
Yeah.
And then I looked down at my phone in between classes. I answered. I'll never forget. I said, Pete, what's up? And he didn't even say hi. He was like, Ryan. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, it's time. And I knew what he meant. I knew exactly what he meant, because we've been friends forever. I was like, are you serious? And he goes, yeah. And I go, what do I need to do? And he goes, okay, I need you to send me 2 videos of you playing the hardest Frank Zappa songs you can right now. I said, define, like, I'm in the middle of teaching. Like, this is not on my radar at
oh my God.
all. Like, I mean, like totally out of left field. And I said, define right now. and he goes, yesterday. And I was like, okay. so I went down the hall. So there was a student of mine, Mike Sassano, great drummer and friend of mine, and he was a student of mine at MI at the time, and he was the kid who was shooting YouTube videos for all the students. He had the rig, he had the whole thing down. So I looked at the schedule of MI on my phone, and I was like, where's Mike Sassano right now? And he was like in room 3 whatever. So I went down the hall right before my class started, and he walks out, and I grabbed my student. I said, hey, I was like, what are you doing tomorrow night? Because I was not like, I wasn't prepared at all. Like I just hung up the phone.
Yeah.
I said, what are you doing tomorrow night at like midnight? And he was like, I don't think anything. I was like, good. I was like, we're going to meet in this room here. And I'm going to pay you whatever you want to shoot these videos for me. And I don't care what you're doing, but I'm going to make it worth your while. I'll pay you. Like,
Right.
like, I need you to help me do this. And he was like, oh, I've got you. Like, no worries. We'll do it. So I was trying to think of tunes. So when I was at Indiana, I played on my senior recital. I played the Black Page #2. And I just specifically did the 88 band version. And so even though it had been a long time since I had played it, it was at least like forever embedded in my skull.
Yeah, 11s over, over quarter no triplets. That's in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like your normal, you know, your normal bar band song.
Yeah, it's just like muscle memory. Right back.
Yeah. So it's like when you put that much time into learning something, it's always back there somewhere. And I'm like, okay, so that has to be one of the two tunes. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do for the other one. And so I finish out my day. I call my wife. I'm like, okay, here's what's happening. And I'm like, and I wanted the gig so bad. I was like, I'm not leaving here. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to practice all night, get up, teach, shoot these videos. I was like, because what I didn't want to happen at all is I didn't want this opportunity to fall in my lap. And I didn't want to not give it 100%. I didn't want to be on the other side. I didn't want to be, here 8 years later going, oh man, I should have practiced 2 hours more. I could have.
I had this chance. I blew it,
Yeah. Oh like I really didn't. There was, I was just like, that can't happen.
Right. Well, there wasn't really a choice because I think maybe it was meant to be, but you wanted it that bad. Like somebody that doesn't want it that bad, who thought like novelty, like this is going to be so much fun. I'll do this. You were like all in 100% 10 years before the gig came. That's,
yes. Which is, it's crazy to think about it. Yeah. So in a way, and a lot of really close friends of mine I've known forever have pointed this out. I've been in a sense preparing for it since I was 13.
Right.
But was lucky enough to know the person, and the cards just kind of fell to where I got thrown. Now and I just got thrown into the mix at this point, of other people auditioning.
If you hadn't gone to that party and you hadn't met that guy, it's like all of those little things that happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, for real. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have happened. And so I'm trying to think of the other song to play. And I'm finally like, well, I guess I'll just do Inca Roads.
Nice.
Because like there's so many songs to choose from. Yeah. Yes. I was like, okay, so like I'll just do, and I had to decide, right? I didn't want to be like, oh, maybe I'll do this. And I was like, I need to decide now because I'm going to practice from now until midnight tomorrow. So I choose Inca Roads. And so I practiced all night. I stayed there. I practiced. I taught the next day. And I got it to where it was like, on that short of notice, where it was as good as it could possibly be for me. So, so my buddy Mike shoots the videos. I send them to Pete. So, Inca Roads, Black Page #2, 88 version.
Wait, are you playing to the tracks or are you playing just you?
Yeah. So good question. I played to the tracks and then my friend Mike, mixed it. So like he had a good way of doing it. He like you, he's, knows all the awesome tech stuff. And so he had a great way of mixing it. So I was on top, but you could still hear the track.
Yeah.
So I played to the record for one size, from Inca Roads.
Yeah.
And then the live version for Black Page #2. So we sent him
live in New York.
No, the Make a Jazz Noise.
Oh, okay.
Version,
Yeah.
The 88 band version.
Yeah.
And so he sends them to Dweezil, and Dweezil calls me the next day. And he says, hey, I got your videos. I was like, okay, cool. And he was like, so tell me about my dad's music. I was like,
whoa.
Okay. And I said, I've listened to your dad since I was 13. And I go, first record was Zappa in New York. Funny you just mentioned that. It's like first record for me was Zappa in New York. I go,
me too.
Go through the whole thing. And then he says, tell me about Chester Thompson. I can't remember what order Dweezil did this in, but he's like, so I'm like, okay, well, Chester played on, records, these songs, and I like this. And he's like, tell me about Ralph. what's your favorite thing about Ralph? So I tell him, what about, hey, what records did Vinny play on? So I tell him, tell me, he was like, tell me about Zoodlers. Like, okay,
Wow.
Bozio. So this went on, and I didn't even really think about it when it was happening. And I just know this stuff from being a fan forever. And so meanwhile, my wife's in the other room, and like an hour went by. It went on for a long time. And so at the end of the conversation, he says, okay, I want to play with you. So that's what it took for me to get in the room, was the 2 videos, Not Sleeping, and then this thing. And I found out later, by the way, and I would feel the same way if it were my dad's music. Dweezil said, I want people here that love my dad's music and that know it and have listened to it for a long time, and don't view it as like a stepping stone to another gig.
Everybody in that band has got to be a super fan. It's the only way, right? I mean, to really truly to put life into that stuff, you have to live it and breathe it and love it, I would imagine, right?
Yes, and it's also paid off in other ways, meaning that if I'm on the road and he'll mention some specific record, like we all know it because we've listened to it forever, and we might not be able to do it note for note right now without transcribing it, but I can jump in the middle and be like, oh yeah, no, I kind of know how it goes because I bought it when I was 15,
right?
So I know it's back here somewhere. I kind of know what's how to fake my way through it, and then that night I can transcribe it, chart it out, whatever, and then know it for the next day. So he gives me this like 1 hour quiz, and then he says, okay, I'm going to send you some songs to learn. Give me your email. It'll probably be like 10 songs. And we set a date, and the date was like 2.5 weeks away when we were going to play.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, great. So, I've got 17 days to go over these tunes. So as you can imagine, I'm like waiting for the email to come. Day 1, 2, 3, 4 week set, like no email. And I'm like, I don't know where to start. There's too many records. So I'm just listening to it all, the Frank music all the time. No email. 2 weeks, no email. And so then I'm thinking, did I give him the wrong email address? Did I not get it? I don't want to bother him. I don't want to bug him. And and so I called him. I said, hey, I'm really sorry to bother you. I was like, I just want to make sure, did you send the email? And he's like, no, I didn't send you an email yet. I was like,
got it.
I was like, okay.
It's like, all right.
And so, and he told me later, after I got the gig, he was like, I knew if you knew what, you knew in my little interview, you'd be able to play. And he was like, I didn't expect like, an A++ thing of the audition. He was like, I knew that you'd be able to hang with all the tunes because you said you knew them all, right? Wow. I found that out later. So
that's
no
heavy.
stress.
That's heavy right there.
No stress at all, right? So he sends the email 40 hours before the audition, and it's 10 of like the hardest songs ever. And I was like, and so I remember getting the email. I was like, well, here we go. I was like, I've worked my whole life for this moment.
What was the first tune?
And it's funny. I remember one of them on there immediately was Mogio.
Wow.
And it's for those of you that don't know it, it's really hard.
Isn't it in 5/8? The beginning.
It's constantly shifting.
It's constantly shifting, but it starts out in 5. I think because I got that chart when I was a teenager. My teacher gave me that chart. Like, because every week he would bring me some chart, and this is when charts weren't as beautifully written in Sibelius and Finale. So it was like a handwritten looking chart. But I think it was one of those things you could buy off of Barfco.
Yeah, Barfco Swill.
Yeah, Barfco Swill. You could buy the charts. Yeah, and there was like a typed list of like charts that were available to purchase for any instrument practically, right?
And that's not available anymore.
Yeah,
and that's funny because I bought a whole bunch of that stuff also when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And recently I went back to my parents' house over the summer, and I found a whole bunch of it in boxes that were in their garage, and I freaked out. I was like, I've been looking for this for like 20 years.
Wow.
I knew I had it, and I couldn't figure out where it was.
I showed you my chart of the black page that's framed.
Yes.
I think I showed you that, right?
Yeah, I remember you showing me that. I
had
awesome.
It blown up, first of all, so that it's like 11 by 17 each sheet, and it's just the 2 pages in this frame upstairs in my little office.
So great. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
approve of that. I approve.
So
So
now 40 hours basically you have
40
to
hours, he
prep.
sends me the list of tunes. And so I again called my wife. I was like, well, I'll see you in 43 hours.
Right.
I was like, I'm not leaving any, like, there's no way I'm, you know, not going to practice. And I was also at MI teaching. So I'd like teach, practice, teach. I stayed there. I didn't tell anybody there. I didn't want, the only person that knew was that student of mine, Mike. And I was like, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to jinx it. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want anyone else to know. No one knew. It was like my parents, my wife, and my student, Mike. No one else knew.
Wow.
So I stayed there. I practiced nonstop. And it was funny. I've always been like against slow downer apps and slowing stuff down. I'm always like, learn it.
Yeah.
You don't need to slow it down.
Learn it
I'm
in
in lessons.
time.
And then all of a sudden I'm in there like 4 a.m. trying to play Mogio. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got to buy the slow downer app.
Oh my God.
So I finally, like, for that one tune, I was like, I have to be able to slow it down. So I started it. I could play it perfectly at like 85%. I'm like, but that's not going to cut it, and now in, 22 hours, I got to be at 100. So I ran these tunes over and over and over and over and over and didn't sleep. And so I go to the audition and I'm destroyed. Like I haven't slept at all. And I'm, but like I said, I wanted to give it 100%. So I go in and I play and it was the most fun ever. Cause I never played those songs aside from the Black Page #2. I never played them with a band. And there's a huge difference. And this goes for any song by any artist, but there's a huge difference to playing along in your room and then, or having to lead a band of any size band through a chart. So, so we get, and by the way, when I left, I could play Mogio at like 92%. I'm like, well, I guess I'll count it off slow and hope no one notices.
Right.
So I'm like, all right. So we start playing and it went great. It went great. Like I've said before, like I give myself, like a B, but under the circumstances, it was like, with the amount of time to prepare, the preparation was like an A+, because there's no way I could have done any better on it. So, but it was funny because I was so tired in the middle of it. I remember Sheila, who I met years ago at a party. Sheila looks at me and she was like, Ryan? And I go, yeah. And she goes, can you take a deep breath for me right now, please? Just breathe. Because everybody in the room knew I wanted the gig so bad and I hadn't slept and I practiced and I was like, yeah. And she could tell, and honestly, it was a huge help. I was like a good reminder to breathe. So we play, went as well as it could have gone for me. And then, and I realized in the middle of that, there were no Bozio tunes on these 10 tunes. I was like, interesting. Like it hit me halfway through prepping for it. So, on my way out of the audition, I told Dweezil, I was like, by the way, I know your whole solo catalog. Also, I know Confessions, if you ever want to do any of that stuff. And I walked out, you don't know if you're going to get called back. I thought, I might as well tell him. So then he calls me a couple of days later. He's like, okay, so like, it's you and one other guy and we're going to do callbacks. And he was like, I realized there were no Bozio tunes on there. So here's a bunch of Bozio tunes. And that's like right in my wheelhouse. Cause the first record I had was Zappa in New York. I was like, oh, great. Okay, great. So it was City of Tiny Lights. And then he added the Black Page. And so, which I was, I knew was eventually going to be there. So then I did the callback. We did the same 10 tunes from the first day, plus the Bozio tunes, plus the Black Page on a 4-piece kit, which I'll tell you is like a little, when you get it down one way and your muscle memory snaps to another way, and then all of a sudden you do it on a 4-piece kit, it's a whole other thing. It's like relearning something you've done forever,
I will tell you that, I've never gotten that totally polished, but I really tried working on that. I can't imagine playing that. Like, what are you hitting rims to take care of parts, right? I mean, it's like, what do you do?
It was, yeah, right. Well, you're right. It was like rims, like bell, like, bells, whatever, just trying to cop it. And I remember in the middle of it, actually, I remember Dweezil starting to laugh, and I remember thinking, that's either good or really not good. I was like, there's no in between. And I remember I finished, and he looked at me, and I remember it was funny. He said that sounded like Buddy Rich playing the Black Page. I was like, okay. I was like, because it was on the 4-piece kit. I was like, all right, good, good, good. So then he did, and this was the thing that I tell people a lot. That was the thing that reminded me of those Frank auditions that Vi and Vinny have mentioned. So then he says, "Okay, I'm going to play a riff for you. When you figure out what time signature it's in, I want you to play with me." And I was like, "I'm just going to loop it. I'm going to play. So when you figure it out, jump in." And so he starts this thing, and I don't remember. The whole thing is a blur for me because everything's going by 100 miles an hour when I'm in the room doing the audition. And it was like in 13. And so I figured out, I play with him, we jam, and then we stop, and he goes, "Okay, now do it reggae. Ready? Count it off. Go." And I was like, "Okay." So I count it off, we do it reggae. And then he stops me. He's, "Okay, we're gonna do it again, but I want you to solo over. I'm gonna do it solo over. Ready, go, count it off, go." Like there was no time to think. It was just like go, 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 go. And then next riff, here's another riff, and it was in 7 or whatever it was in. When you figured out, jump in, stopped, did the reggae thing, stopped, now solo over it. So there are about 4 of those, and he was like, "Okay." And then he's like, I'll be in touch. And like 2 weeks went by, and every day, all day, I'm like, I know my phone, I'm like, "Oh, ring, is it gonna ring?" 100%. And so, after like 10 days, I'm like, I didn't get it. And I'm like, but you know what? It's okay, because I gave it my all. Like I did everything I possibly could have. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be, but there's nothing more I could have done. And then like, right as I had that thought, after whatever, 10 days, like 2 days later, I kind of gave up. And then he called me, and he was like, "Sorry, I've been really busy with a whole bunch of other stuff." But he's like, "I love your playing, and you're the guy. I want you in the band. Do you want to do it?" And I couldn't believe it. And I remember right where my daughter was 1, and I was pushing her in the stroller, walking down a street in Burbank. I can tell you exactly where I was when he called.
Just a grown man pushing a baby carriage in tears, just crying, weeping uncontrollably.
With the 1-year-old wondering what's wrong. Yeah.
"What's wrong, Daddy?"
Yeah, yeah. So that's the long version of the audition story.
Oh my God.
So, and then, like I said, it was after all that I found out that he was like, "Well, I really wanted, like you said, it has to be somebody in the band that really loves the music." And, like I said, if it were me, like I wouldn't want anybody in that was just using it as I've heard him say, they use the word prestige gig. That his dad, I guess, had used that word that Frank had used, where some guys would kind of come in and be like, "Oh, yeah, I can put it on my resume." And Frank was like, no, like, I want you to love this stuff. So,
Yeah.
and like I said earlier, like for me, it's totally dream gig. I'm, very, very lucky. And it's just an honor to sit there and play with him and do it. And I love it.
And I could tell, anybody that's, if anybody's hanging and watching this that's not seen this band play, and I know it's not going to be now until 2022, possibly in June, July, you said?
Yeah, we'll see. It's all post dates when I get them.
You must go. You just must go. Just to see this guy play drums, first of all, but the whole band is just incredible. And you just never know what's going to happen from night to night, which is always a fun thing for the audience and also for you guys, I'm sure.
Yeah, I never know what's going to happen either. Night to night, yeah. But I thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. And the band is amazing. Everybody in the band is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I've seen the band from early on. Of course, when Joe Travers was playing drums, and they had the percussionist, and I forget the piano player's name early on, but the keyboard
Aaron
player.
Arntz.
Oh my God.
Aaron, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Super talented, right? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like he was doing the really high vocal parts.
Yep.
And, playing like a really cool, and then he would pick up, what was he playing?
He's playing like trumpet too.
He'd pick up a trumpet and start playing, like killing it on the trumpet. So I think, at the moment we should jump into the chat real quick and just say hello to some people.
Yeah.
And then I
I
have
haven't
a
even
few
looked
more.
at the chat.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
have
even
a
have
few
it.
more questions for you. But so
Yeah.
the chat gets pulled into Restream, so I have the chat coming in from a couple different avenues.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to not overlay the chat because it'll cover your face. We can't do that. Steve Balguyan, how you doing, man? He said, Ryan, I saw you with Zappa play Zappa at the Boulder Theater a few years back. Great work, incredible stuff.
Oh, cool. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. That venue is special for me because I'm from Denver,
Yeah.
born and raised. And the first time I went to the Boulder Theater was actually to see the Chick Corea Electric Band on the Beneath the Mask tour. And it was a 18 and up show. And I was not 18 yet. And my dad, because he's awesome, called the owner of the Boulder Theater and talked them into letting me go. And they said, okay, so you can go. They said you can bring your son, but he can't come in the front door because that's illegal. So you need to come in the back through the alley and just buy tickets. And he was like, I'll come meet you and let you in. And then you can sit like behind the stage above the drums. Is that okay? And my dad was like, yeah, that's fine. And it was nuts. So I remember we get there, like my dad goes to the front, we go back around, and the owner opens the door, and we walk in, and all 5 dudes are standing like 4 feet in front of me. And I think I was 16. And I remember I couldn't talk. Like they're all looking at me like, hey, what's up? You know, I never met Weckl before, you know, and like, you know, but chicks, all 5 of them are there. I'm like, what is happening? And then we go up this tiny staircase. And so thanks for your comments. So whenever I play there, I love it because I always look up to the little perch where my parents and I were sitting watching Weckl forever ago on that tour. So I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. That's a very, very special place for me because of that. I also saw, we were talking about him earlier, I saw David Garibaldi give a drum clinic there. Like, I don't know, I was probably 15. It was a long time ago. Yeah.
And Dave,
So,
if you're watching, I'll help you with your Mac problem later. He's sending me 911 texts.
that was one of my favorite clinics I've ever seen. And I've been working out of Future Sounds.
Wow.
One of my favorite books ever. So yeah, so I love playing there.
Wow, those are some great memories. Oh my God. My young student Lucia Rose Seminar is hanging out with us. She's saying
cool.
hello.
Hi.
She may have a good question. We'll see shortly. I'm starting from the beginning of the chat, so I'm just going to read through. Pat Ross is hanging with us. He says hi to me and to some of the other folks watching and to you.
Hey,
Bob
Pat.
Sears hanging with us. Bob Sears is a student of mine as well, who's a very big Zappa fan. So he said, yes, please post tour dates when they happen. Yes, they will be posted. Let's see. Joey Pinto. Hey, what's up? Says, Ryan, he's a friend of mine, which he is, and his eye doctor is Alan Minkoff.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So his eye doctor
that's Adam's dad.
is Adam's dad.
I love it. Adam's parents are so cool. They come out all the time. I know him. That's really funny. I know him really well.
Oh, that's great. Barry Nagel's hanging. Loves my Team Dweezil shirt, which get your Dweezil gear on so you can help promote.
Thank you for wearing that. That's awesome.
Okay, here we go. Lucia Rose Seminar. Ryan, who is your biggest inspiration as a drummer?
That is a great question.
Lucia's 12, by the way.
So, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in. So there's so many people, but I will tell you that sort of my original holy trinity of drummers that goes back to is Greg Bissonette, Will Calhoun, and Dennis Chambers.
Nice.
And that's because I saw Greg give a drum clinic when I was, you said she's 12? Yeah, so I was 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was 12. I was either 11 or 12. I want to say I think I was 12. I saw Greg give a drum clinic in Denver. And that was one of 2 life-changing days for me. And that was the day that I decided by the time the clinic ended, I'd never been to a drum clinic before. And I thought, that's it, game over. I want to be that guy. That guy's the coolest guy I've ever seen in my life. my goal was to be Greg Bissonette from that day on. And at that clinic, at that time, he was a Pearl endorser, and they gave out like a Pearl newsletter. Some of you probably remember this, and like folded out like to like poster size. And I had no idea what to listen to or anything. And so I remember in that poster it said new records by our endorsers, and it was David Lee Roth, Skyscraper, which Greg was playing the tunes from at the clinic, and it was Living Color, Time's Up, and I also had Vivid. I mean, I think it was Time's Up, Vivid. Maybe it was Vivid. I'm thinking what year it was. It was probably Vivid by Living Color. And it was one of my all-time favorite records, the John Scofield record, Loud Jazz.
Unbelievable.
And so and it's funny, I think about this a lot because of me going to see Greg and because of that poster. And it said, hey, check out these 3 records. So I did. And those 3 records, like everything I do can kind of go back to those 3 records and those 3 guys.
Right. Isn't it amazing how you can really trace those influences and you feel them in your playing, channeling in your playing, even years and years later?
Yeah. And I'll like, so Dweezil records every show, and we listen to it on the bus, and there'll be fills that go by, and it'll go by, and I'll be like, Will Calhoun. I'm like, I can hear. I'm like, that's from Middleman. But I don't think about it that way. It's because I started playing along to those records when I was 12. And so it's just like embedded in my skull as like, so those, and then after those 3, then the other moment for me was when I saw Rush at Fiddler's Green outside of Denver on the Presto tour.
Yeah.
June 22nd, 1990. I just turned 14. And so then it was Rush. It was all, and my whole life was Rush and Zappa. So so it was like those 3, and then it was all Rush. And when I was 13, just before that show, Modern Drummer, Bozio was on the cover. I had no idea who he was at all. And it had a list of favorite records that he had played on. And the first one said Zappa in New York. And so I went and bought it. That's the whole reason I even got into Frank, was because of Modern Drummer.
Wow.
Because Bozio was on the cover. And so my whole life after that point, so it was those 3, then it was all the Frank Zappa guys and Rush, to the point where my mom, and I think my parents are watching, my mom made 2 pillows for my bed, and one said Rush and one said Zappa.
What? Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it all goes back to that for me.
Thanks, Mom. Very supportive. Very, very supportive.
They're the best. So check out those records. Yeah, all those. But the John Scofield, that era with Dennis Chambers, and like then, Blue Matter, Loud Jazz, Pick Hits Live.
Did you go pick up the of course, the Dennis Chambers DCI video that he did?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
I was all over that. Yeah. Oh man. So good. And then the first clinic I saw him give, it was so amazing. It was in Denver, and it was him and Tim Alexander from Primus, which I became a huge Primus fan like after I was probably like 16 or so. I became a huge Primus fan. I think about that now. I'm like, that's a really interesting pairing for a drum clinic. Yeah. And I remember Tim coming and like sat behind my dad and I at the clinic, and Tim was asking Dennis more questions than anybody else was in the room.
Wow.
It was I'm a huge Tim Alexander fan, huge Primus fan. And
wow.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know those Scofield records, check those out. So yeah, that's kind of where my whole thing started. There's so many other people, but it all goes back to that.
I love that Scofield stuff. And I mean, I saw Scofield later with Bill Stewart on drums, which is always incredible. But I never saw live, with the Dennis Chambers stuff. I never got to see that live, but I did have that video. And I had those records. All right, let's see. So, where's my glasses? Because I can't see the names. Oh, Mr. Lindsey McDonald. Very, very proper. Mr. Lindsey McDonald. I wonder what is Ryan's favorite Zappa track to play?
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's some So I like some for different reasons. So one of the first one that pops in my head is Zombie Wolf, because it's this great mix of, it's there's a huge solo section that goes on forever, which is grooving, but the top of the tune starts off with all these fives, and then it goes into four, and and it's so it's like this great mix for me of high energy, so super fun solo section that's fun to build, odd times in the beginning,
Right.
and um that's always one of my favorites. We did Sinister Footwear on a tour that was always super fun to play and crazy challenging. And I will say, when we learned that, we had charts for the beginning part, for the interlude part of that. And I get asked this a lot. So the black page obviously is very difficult to play. But the one thing I'll say is, when I did it for not every show, but a lot of shows, it was just me.
Right.
So there's a big difference between doing it by yourself and doing these crazy complicated lines and nested tuplets and all this stuff with other people is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So we put so much time into Sinister Footwear, and we did it to a click, and we put on like quarter note equals 70 and do it crazy slow. And so it was Kurt's holding down the bass thing, and it was me, Sheila on sax, and Chris Norton on keys, doing all these lines in unison. And it's, I feel like that one, partially probably because we put so much time into it, and to the point where like we didn't even have to think about it anymore. Just like anything, like you just do it over and over and over and over again. And I was very proud of how we did that. And then there was a huge solo section in that also. That Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch will probably be another one, just because that was the second Frank record I got. And that's another one where it's kind of this great mix of really crazy odd time stuff, but there's also kind of a section where it just kind of coasts, and there's a cool vocal thing, and there's two solo sections at the end, and they both, like, one's very delicate and very pretty, and then the other one is very heavy and can get really nuts. So I always love that. Plus it's fun because it goes on for like 15 minutes. so yeah, that's a great question. That's the kind of the first ones I think of.
That's awesome.
But they're all awesome.
They are. Yeah.
So, it's hard to pick, but those are the ones I would say right now.
Back to that same Montclair show that I saw, you guys did, I think you guys debuted this, but I don't know if you kept it ever in the set, but Frank wrote a commercial. And
the
you
Remington
guys,
Razor, the electric razor commercial.
Yeah, the electric razor commercial. And you guys played it that night.
Yes.
That was like
that
totally
was so
bananas.
fun.
So that's like a fun treat, right? To play
That
something.
was super fun. That's fun. Yeah, we didn't, we didn't do that the whole tour. I don't know how many shows we did it, but there's a lot of that stuff that just kind of comes in and goes out. And Linda Ronstadt sang on that. Like in the original, like if you listen to it, like you get, and when it's one of those things, it's like Tina Turner sang background on some of the Frank stuff, like, right. And you don't realize, and then once you're like, of course that's Tina Turner, like of course that's Linda Ronstadt.
Oh my god.
But if you don't know, I would just never think about it. There's a lot of little like Easter egg things like that in the Frank tunes.
Keep the Easter egg in my mind. I have something to ask you about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Bob Sedulowski is in here.
Oh, cool. Yo, Bob's awesome. Great drummer.
Thanks for hanging. We appreciate it. So, all you guys that are hanging here, any questions that you have, we'll try to grab now. I'm just going to read off a few more things, and then I have some more questions for Ryan. So,
awesome. Sorry, really quick shout out to Bob, because Bob during the pandemic was going through his house and found an old Wuhan Zing cymbal like Wackerman used on Mogio and What's New in Baltimore and all that stuff. And Bob sent me one because he had an extra one. Wow. It's like a 1983 perfectly aged Zing that's unbelievable. So like I said, we haven't played since then. So I can't wait to,
oh my god,
to get that out and use that, because and you hit it and it's like, yep, that's exactly the one. It's so cool. So thank you again, Bob, for that.
So from the Wuhan stuff, it's a Zing. What's the difference with the Zing and like the Chinas and?
it's like a cup chime. It's about, there's different sizes, but it's about
Right.
this long or this big, and it's thick. It's about like this. And in
Oh.
the center, it's raised about, 2.5 inches or so, 3 inches, about that big around. So
Oh.
yeah, it's
Oh,
really, really cool. But
they're
yeah, thank you,
pitched?
Bob. That was so awesome.
Oh, cool. Are they pitched, or is it just different sizes with relative pitches or something?
Yeah, just different sizes with relative, I think. Although Bob might chime in on
Cool.
that. No pun intended. Oh, hey, I'm pretty sure it's just relative pitch, just size
Yeah.
differences. Yeah.
Um, Peter Retzlaff is hanging with us. Peter was on the show. Do you know Peter?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Pete's a great guy, amazing drummer.
Yeah.
Fellow New Yorker. So glad you're hanging. He said he loved hearing about the audition process, which was really fun. Stephen Chamberlain hanging with us, good buddy of mine.
Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah. Go ahead. Thanks
Steph.
everybody for tuning in.
He said amazing. This is great. My buddy Dave Clive is hanging with us. Dave
What's
Clive,
up, Dave?
He has a Gretsch collection that is unrivaled. He's going to be a guest on the show on a vintage drum night where we're going to be talking about his Gretsch collection, and also Pat Ross will be in there talking about his snare drum collection. So we're going to do a vintage drum night. I figure as long as we're all drum nerds, we might as well go down the vintage rabbit hole as well.
Oh yeah, that show could be like 8 hours long too.
Yeah, exactly. Bob said, hopefully no broken foot next tour.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I also wish for that as well. Yeah, there was an unfortunate incident there on the Hot Rats tour. There were a number of shows. I never posted anything about it. There were a number of shows. My left foot was broken, and so we ended up getting 2 hi-hats. And I had one hi-hat that I had locked closed, and one that was locked sloshy for the open hat stuff. And I got really good at doing the 2 hi-hat thing. It was funny because no one really noticed unless they were friends of mine. And people would be like, "Oh, cool, you're rocking the double hi-hat." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, that's
I never said anything about it.
Like,
I did that for like, I don't know, like 19 shows or something. I had the double hi-hat thing going on. For the first few, I had our tech, Chris Del Nostro, who's the greatest tech ever. He built a thing so I could have my foot elevated too while we played.
Oh my God.
And somehow hardly anybody noticed, which was awesome. Yeah, which was really cool. But Bob, thank you. Yeah, I hope that it doesn't happen also.
It's like,
it's right here. It's doing good. Yeah.
It's like he can play Zappa stuff, but he can't play Walk This Way by Aerosmith. God.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there'd be no barks. Sorry.
We got some Pete Jones, who I mentioned earlier. He got some really good video of it though, because he was in monitor world. So he's like right off this, and I'm on stage left. I'm not center on the stage. So he's right by me. So he got some good video. We'd be in the middle of some solo section of some tune. I'd look over and he'd just have the video on. He'd be like,
oh my God. That's awesome. Let's see. Joey Pinto was just saying about your audition thing. He said that was the best story he ever heard.
Oh man. Oh, thanks.
Nice.
Thanks. Well, I was lucky to be thrown into the mix, and the other guy, it got down to me and another guy who's an LA guy who's a phenomenal drummer, and I'm really honored that I was the one that was picked. So
wait, who is the other guy?
I don't know if I should say who the other guy is.
I tried to trick you. So yeah, well, hey, listen, I'm sure that you both were adequately prepared, but it all came down to the passion. Maybe your passion was just that much more.
The other guy is phenomenal, and he's got the passion. And I sat outside, of course. Like, I finished mine, I stood in the parking lot and listened to his, and the whole time I'm like, oh man,
oh no,
this is gonna be close.
maybe he didn't do that good on the Dweezil quiz.
Yeah, I don't know if he that could have helped me on my way out. Like, hey, by the way, I can play Confessions front to back right now if you want to do it. I don't even need to listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, that record. Yeah, speaking of early records and like my kind of holy trinity and stuff we were talking about earlier, that record was huge for me. The Dweezil Confessions record like that just, and it was Dweezil and Nuno Betancourt, and there's
Right.
100 people on it, but it's Josh Freese, and at that point in time, no one knew who Josh was unless you lived in LA,
Right.
or were older than I was. You just nobody. I remember I was looking at like, oh, who's this guy? You know, turns out he's amazing. Even back then, and it was like he'd done Disneyland for a few years.
Oh, okay.
It was like post his Disneyland stint, but I think it was like right after he left then, or he was really young on that record. But throw that into that mix for records to check out.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So Phil from Canada says, hi. Phil, Flipper OC. It's not Phil DeRocher, is it? Hi, Phil. So Phil says hi, Ryan.
Hey, I think I know which Phil. Yeah, what's up, Phil?
And he said, ask Ryan about recording in Toronto with Alex Lifeson. We are definitely talking about that. Actually, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Let's do it now.
So let's go back to my mom's pillows for a second. So somehow, and this has become a joke with all my friends that have known my parents forever. So somehow my mom like put these two things on these pillows, Zappa and Rush, and they both came true. So there's some friends of mine that have jokingly told my mom like, hey, can you make some pillows for me? And can you like put whatever on and see if it comes to life. So the Lifeson thing it's still like, I still don't believe it sometimes. So yeah, definitely this is like, so don't forget, one of the second moment for me was seeing the Presto tour. And so like, they're like, for me, it all goes back to that. It was like, I saw Biznat give the clinic and I was like, I want to be that guy. And then I saw Rush, like 2.5 years later. Now that just sealed the deal. I was like, that's it. I'm playing drums the rest of my life. That's it. It's over. It's over. And so Alex is the guy, and so there's this artist I've worked with for years, phenomenal singer songwriter named Karam Maliki Sanchez. It's Keram. And he is an actor also, and has been in a whole bunch of stuff, like all kinds of, episodes of 24. And, he's like in an episode here, episode there. If you guys saw him, you'd probably be like, I've seen that guy before somewhere, and he's had some big roles and so, some newer movies. And so I started playing with him a long time ago. I have to like, I don't know, like around 04, 05, something like that. And so he would play shows around town. I started playing with him. We hit it off, became best friends, same musical interests. He's a huge Zappa fan also. And we start doing records and playing shows around town all the time. Okay. So years later, like 7 years later, he goes to Toronto to shoot a movie. And he's shooting this movie, and one of the other actors in the movie is Alex Lifeson.
What?
And Alex, like, he's done some Trailer Park Boys stuff, and he's done like bit things here and there. Okay. But on the call sheet, it said Big Al. It never said his name. Never said his name on the call sheet. Right. So Karam didn't, and he, Karam was a huge Rush fan growing up, and I hadn't seen him live for a long time. He didn't know he acted. It was off his radar. So Karam didn't know it was Alex Lifeson. So they become best friends shooting this movie together. The whole thing is crazy. So they become best friends shooting this movie together, and they stay up every night, hanging out afterwards, listening to music, play. And Karam's like, oh, I've got this band in LA. I've been working on these songs. Here's some songs, I've been, and they become best friends. And he didn't realize who it was. So he figures it out. He comes back to LA and he calls me and he goes, hey, Ryan, I need you to come over to my apartment. I got to tell you something. And I was like, you can't tell me now? Like, we can't, not over the phone. He's like, no. I mean, he only was like 15 minutes away from me. But I'm like, you can't tell me? He's like, no, you need to come down here. I'm like, you sure? He's like, you need to come to my apartment. I'm like, okay. So I go, whatever. The next day I go down. He's like, okay, sit down. You need to sit down. I'm like, what is going on? I have no idea what's happening. He's like, sit down on my couch. So I sit down on his couch and he tells me the long version of this story. And he's like, so now I'm best friends with Alex Lifeson and he wants to play on our record. and like I'm getting goosebumps even now telling it again. And I remember I didn't say anything. I stared at him for probably like 2 minutes, and he was just staring at me. He's like, "Now, do you know why I wanted you to come to my apartment?
Oh my god.
I didn't want to tell you over the phone. Do you get it now?" And I was like, "Wait, hold on." I was like, "Tell the story again." And he tells me the story again, and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Here's an email from him. He says he can't stop thinking about the songs that I played him that we've done, and he wants to be a part of it." And I remember just sitting on his couch for like probably an hour just thinking, and I'm like, what is happening? And I had said forever, like, I didn't want to meet those guys because like they're the dudes, like, and I was just, I'd said that forever. And then now all of a sudden this thing is happening. I'm like, so what are we going to do? Like, and I had recorded drum tracks for this thing he had played Alex years before, but Karam's so busy acting,
Wow.
he hadn't had time to finish it. And I think I had done drums like 7 years before.
Wow.
And they were finished. Like, and we played those songs out for tons of shows. It was, well rehearsed, well-oiled machine with an LA band, a killer LA band. And so I'm like, what are we going to do? Are we going to record together? And he's like, no, I want to do those songs. So he's like, I'm going to go to Toronto to Alex's house, and we're going to cut guitars on all those songs.
Wow.
And so what ended up happening, because Rush was still touring at the time. This was before the R40 tour. I'm trying to think of like what year it was, but it was before R40.
That's hard to say.
And it's like, and so he's busy working on like Clockwork Angels or something. And that tour, and Karam's busy acting. So what ended up happening is Karam goes and Alex records on 3 songs, 2 of which I had played on. There was another one with a drummer in Toronto I had played on. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, Karam's like, okay, we cut them. I'm going to send you the tracks. And so he sends them to me, and I'm driving to MI. I'm on the 101 going down into Hollywood, and I'm listening to it. And there's all these fills I had just done for years. And Alex lines up lines to play with my drum fills. Wow. And as cheesy as it sounds, like, I actually started crying on the 101. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, how did this even happen? And this is, by the way, this is before Dweezil. This is before Zappa plays. This is before any of this stuff.
Yeah. So
I'm like, what is happening? And so he does these 3 songs. And then it was about, I don't know, probably a year later. And it's funny how timing works out. So Karam calls one day and he says, Life's in town. He wants to meet you. He wants to take us all out to dinner. I was like, you're kidding, right? And he's like, no, like, he wants to take us all out to dinner, and he wants to do it tomorrow night, probably, if they're done rehearsing for this, because they're rehearsing in LA. And then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction is the next day. So he has a lot of stuff going on. So if it's happening, it's going to be Monday night. And what's hilarious is 2 days before I went to dinner with him the first time was when Dweezil offered me the gig playing with Zappa Plays Zappa. Oh so it was the same. I got offered the gig on Saturday, and Monday I'm going to dinner with Alex Lifeson. I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? So we go to dinner, and on the way there, I suddenly realized, I'm like, I might not ever meet him ever again. I didn't bring anything for him to sign. And at home, I only have 8 million things he could sign. I didn't bring anything because I had to teach all day. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So there's a record store here called Amoeba, huge record store. So I leave MI, go to Amoeba, and I go to the LPs, and they had Power Windows, and Power Windows is one of my favorites. And it didn't matter. And that was the only one. I'm like, well, I guess it's Power Windows. So I grabbed Power Windows. So it's funny because, like, you can't sneak an LP into like a dinner, like in a jacket pocket. So I've got this bag, and I'm like trying to hide it behind me to sneak in, and everybody's looking at me and looking at the bag and laughing. I'm like, I had to get something for you to sign, and he was the coolest guy ever. And we hung out, we had like a 4-hour dinner and hung out all night afterwards. And then the next day was the famous ceremony for the Hall of Fame when he did the blah 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 blah. So I was with him the night before that all happened.
Wow. Oh my
Which is
God.
crazy. Okay, so then like 6 months later, Karam's like, I want to do a CD release show. And Alex is like, we're off the road. I want to play the show. I'm like, okay. At this point, I'm like, sure. But like, it's still like, this magical thing happening. So I flew to Toronto and he played a show with us. And we did the Karam CD release show. And he played 2 songs with us at the show. And then since then, I've done 2 more songs with him. One of them during the pandemic. We just did one during the pandemic, actually, with Karam. And every time I'm like,
Dude,
still,
that's amazing.
It's still really mind blowing. And he's the nicest guy ever. And he loves Karam and he loves the music that we've been doing forever. And Karam writes these amazing compositions. So the songs that he's on, there's one called Moving Dark Circles, Mary Magdalene. Those are on a record called Come to Life that you can find on Spotify. It's just Karam, Keram, Come to Life. So he had Moving Dark Circles and Mary Magdalene. And then we did one like 4 or 5 years ago called AI, Artificial Intelligence. So AI. And then we did one over the pandemic that's not out yet.
Oh my God.
It's called Rook, R-U-K-H. And so during the pandemic, nobody had anything going on. So Karam asked him, he's like, hey, would you want to play on this? And he was like, yeah. We're like, it's amazing. So here we go again. So yeah, Phil, thanks for asking about the life and things. So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
So hopefully at some point in time, there'll be another Toronto show debuting some of this stuff, and hopefully we get to play together again. And I'll tell you what I really want to do is I want him to come sit in at a ZPZ show with Dweezil in Toronto.
That would be amazing. Does he know? Do you think he knows? Like, I mean, well, you probably know by now, but does he know some of the catalog?
Okay, so I did not know this. They played together.
What? Wait.
That's what I said. And he immediately was like, yeah, we did some shows with Frank. And I was like, what? And I'm sure there's some people watching. There's some people that might know when, but it was like 74.
Wow.
Era. And so immediately Alex was like, oh yeah, I love this. And he said his favorite song is Brown Shoes Don't Make It.
Oh, wow.
And so he had said that. And I still like the thought of like 14-year-old me going to see Rush and Frank play together at 1 or 2 shows they did. I'm like, what? Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, I can even imagine. So anyway, thanks for asking about it. So it's really, really crazy. So
wow, between you and Joe Bergamini, the 2 of you guys had your Rush dreams pretty much fulfilled. It's like, Joe B's whole thing. And
yeah, he posts those pictures, and I'm always like, I stare at those pictures for like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh man,
like, being out on the road, with Neil on his motorcycle, like just talking about what it was like cutting those records, all that background stuff from taking center stage. That's amazing.
So amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God. Rest in peace, Neil, by the way.
Oh man. Yeah. Rest in peace. Indeed. Yeah. That was one of the worst days ever when that news broke, man. Yeah.
I can't even talk about that. I'll get all messed up.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Yeah, because I was on the road at that point, so there's a story behind that. But if I try to talk about it, I'll be weeping, you'll be weeping, everyone will be weeping. We'll get disconnected because tears will destroy my keyboard.
Yeah. Just such a loss. But yeah, I'm very, very honored to play with Alex on these recordings. So I can't wait for everybody to hear this new one. This new one is Karam is amazing. What he did, there's a video. I'll try and find it and post it. There's a video online of, it's like in Eastern Europe somewhere of some guys like making a brick fence, and they have all these tiles lined up for like a couple of 100 feet. And then they did it, and it's like dominoes, and they hit it, and then all the tiles fall like into place, and then they go through and and seal it.
Oh my God.
The mortar, and put the mortar in. But so Karam saw this, and he heard this thing where they hits it, and then it runs down this line, and he was like, I need to write a song using that.
Wow.
So the song is inspired by this video that these construction workers made, and I can't remember where it was. I think it was in Eastern Europe somewhere. And so he wrote a whole song based around the sound that this made.
Wow.
And it's really, really, really cool. Like, Karam's just so unique, and so it comes up with these amazing ideas.
Wow. And Karam's music is on Spotify, you said?
It's on Spotify. Yeah, he's also, as this is another thing I think of all the time, because he comes from the acting world, and we've all done all kinds of gigs and sessions and stuff, and we've all had band leaders say to us, lay back here, push this here, maybe, and I love it so much. Karam speaks in acting terms, where he'll turn around, he'll say, that felt like we were in a convertible going down the PCH, and it was 100 degrees and the sun was out. I don't want it to feel like that. Wow. I want it to feel more like, we're driving down in a car, or driving a car down a road, and it's raining outside, and it's 2 a.m, and we just finished a gig, and we're all tired. And I think, and it really, that line of thought really hit with me. And I think of that all the time. So instead of using like specific terms to describe what you want to feel, like, create an environment you want it to feel. And I started doing that with my students too. And it's amazing how just thinking like those 2 pictures in your mind and changing your thought, like, oh yeah, well, it's the middle of the day and I'm on the PCH, I'm all amped up, and it's, we're gonna go grab some lunch and, go hang out on the beach or whatever, versus, I'm tired. I would be doing, I played 3 sets of music. I had to load gear. It's rain. I got to drive an hour, and I played it. I remember him turning around. And he was like, that's how it should feel.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, I'd never thought of that kind of stuff, that line of thought before. So now I think of it all the time, the time.
Film directing approach as opposed to musical directing approach. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's been a big thing for me, that I've got one of the many things I've learned from Karam, but that's a big one for sure.
Wow. Yeah, I've never really thought of it like that. That's amazing. Couple other things I'm going to read off real quick. Hollywood Light says, ask Ryan about his awesome senior recital. I don't know who Hollywood Light is, because it's just his YouTube name, but he said ask about his awesome senior recital.
Oh my gosh, I don't know who that is either.
Somebody you went to school with. Maybe he'll tell us.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for asking. I want to know who that is. So my recital at Indiana. So I did the Black Page #2.
Yeah.
And then I soloed over the Thingfish prologue, another Frank Zappa piece from Thingfish.
Right.
So I did that. I transcribed one of my favorite bands. I transcribed a Masada tune, which is John Zorn and Joey Barron, one of my favorite drummers, Joey Barron. And it's like, I don't even know how to. Do you know Masada? Have you ever listened to them before? It's like an offshoot of Naked City, another one of my favorite like avant-garde John Zorn bands. But the Masada stuff is so great. It's like instrumental klezmer music, like played by a jazz quartet that then gets super out in this. Like, I don't even really know how to describe it. You should just check it out. When I was in college, I was way into John Zorn, so I transcribed a Masada piece. I did a Keith Jarrett tune called Bop B. There was DeJohnette on the original, and I did a timpani piece, a 4-mallet vibe piece, a duet with another percussionist at IU, snare drum solo. So yeah, the Indiana thing was amazing, because for me, and it's actually funny now because of doing the Zappa gig, the Zappa world is all styles of music,
right,
at any given time. And my whole life was sort of not just in the Zappa realm, but preparing for that, because in Indiana, I did all orchestral stuff, all the jazz stuff, concert band. I've done all that forever. And so it was like this great mix of everything headed to what I do now. So on my recital, I did like a big mix of all of that.
By the way, that's I messed that up. His name is Lido. Hollywood Lido.
Oh,
Lito.
yes. Okay. Well, Lito, thank you for asking. Lito's one of my best friends ever. Lito is an amazing percussionist also.
So sorry I
So
called you
thank you. Thanks, Lito. Thanks
Hollywood
for asking
Light.
about that. That was super fun. So yeah, it's funny to watch that. My dad took video. It's funny to watch all the Zappa stuff on there now. Um, knowing what I do all these years later,
Yeah.
living in Zappa world. But thanks, Lito. That was really, really fun.
Oh my
Really
God.
fun time.
My buddy Dave Clive says, tell Ryan I was really impressed with his playing with ZPZ and seeing Zappa and the Mothers of Invention changed his life. He got to see Bozio, Kalyuta, Wackerman with Zappa. So, and I know
Oh,
Dave's, yeah.
that's well. Thank you. I really appreciate that, especially coming from someone like you who's seen all those guys, all the legends do it. I'm trying to do it justice. So thank you.
Dave and I saw Bozio in clinic, and when he was doing when he started the solo drumming thing, after his solo drumming VHS came out, that first one.
Oh yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
And so we went to we went to the city in Manhattan to go see him do a clinic, and at SIR, I think. And he had like a monster kit. It wasn't the SS Bozio at that point yet, but it was getting close to that.
Yeah.
And I just remember, first of all, he was really sweet. I have a signed picture up where I can't reach it right now to show you, but he was very accommodating and very nice. But I just remember somebody asking him about his nipple ring to nose ring thing that he was wearing. And he was like, I fly all the way across the country from LA to come here and do a drum clinic for you, and you have the audacity to ask me about my nose ring. He's like, what does that have to do with drumming or anything? And everybody was like, boo! Everybody's booing the guy. So
I can see that cover of Modern Drummer right now with that going on.
yeah, but,
actually, some of you might know Bob Rupp.
yeah.
He had the store's still in Denver. Amazing store called Rupp's Drums. He doesn't own it anymore. The new owner, Alex, is amazing. But when Bob was there, Bob sold me my first drum when I was 11 years old.
I was going to ask you about that.
And I still talk to Bob all the time. I saw him a couple months ago, and I remember asking Bob, because I remember one day he was like, I'm friends with Bozio. And I remember I was 12 or whatever. I was like, what's up with that chain and the nipple? And I remember asking Bob about it, and he goes, oh yeah, he got rid of that. And I said, why did you get rid of that? And he said Bozio called me and said, man, it hurts. I don't want that in anymore.
First of all, everybody wondered about that for sure, right? But definitely I wouldn't have had the nerve to ask him at a drum clinic. So I
never would have asked him at a drum clinic ever. Yeah.
I'm surprised people didn't throw chairs at that guy.
No way would I have done. Yeah. Especially, when I was 12, 13, 14, I wouldn't have asked anything. I would have been so scared to even talk at the clinic. I wouldn't have done anything at all, but that's really funny.
It's so funny. Sal Masello says, hey, Ryan, love the audition story. And Sal also said that the best experience of his life was playing at Dweezil in upstate New York with the band. Highway Star Jam changed my life as a drummer.
Oh man, that was so fun. That was so fun. Sal, you're the best. Dweezil is a music camp that Dweezil's done a number of times. It hasn't happened since that one. We were going to do it, and then COVID hit, and then we all know what's happening now. So hopefully we get to do it again. But it's a music camp, and there were like 5 drummers there. Sal was one of the drummers. Sal's an awesome drummer who plays in New York on Long Island. And Sal, love you. Awesome. So good. Yeah, we got to jam. There were two kits set up, and we did all these double drum jams. Super fun.
Oh, that's so cool. And Sal also said that that ZPZ is like one of the best collection of musicians on the planet, basically.
Oh, thanks.
I agree with that. And Flipper said Alex is just another frostbitten Canadian boy. Okay. All right. I think we're up to date with most of the chat. I'm gonna drop out of that because I have a speed round of questions, and then I'm sure you have a life to get back to. You have a child and a puppy. You have an awesome puppy.
We have a puppy. Oh, no, that they're good. Thanks. Yeah, we both have golden doodles.
Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can pull this off, but I might be able to pull this off. Wait, hold on. I'm going to watch this. Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to see because the pictures will be small. But in our text thread from I don't know how long ago, this is my Cooper up on top and your dog on the bottom.
I love it.
Isn't that great?
I
That was
love it.
from like around Christmas time.
That's yes. That's everybody. That's Cherry. I'll tell Cherry that she made it on the live stream.
Yeah, you wrote Merry Christmas, Jim. We're loving the Golden Doodle Club. Oh, that's great. And one other little side note is that when you were mentioning Power Windows before, I started a Rush cover band when I was in my late teens called Power Windows.
Oh, no way.
And then I was playing with a like a jazz piano trio and doing all these other gigs, and I really couldn't dedicate the time to it. So I left, and Joe Bergamini became the second drummer and actually the better fit because he really knew all the material. But I had started the band we had a separate keyboard player, and who was Daniel Gibson, Father William Gibson, the famous author. And Dan Gibson and I started the Rush cover band, and Joe B finished it out. He stayed with it till the end. So I did.
Oh, no way.
I was in the offshoot progressive original band called 10 Ton Tide, which was an offshoot of Power Windows, and we did 2 records, and one of them is on YouTube in its entirety. So if you look up 10 Ton Tide, the whole record's up there. It's really fun. But it's the Power Windows band as an original band, which is kind of fun.
Oh, cool. That's really, really neat.
So I have a speed round of questions. So
yeah,
I'm going to do my speed round. So first record you bought with your own money, which I think you covered, but I don't know. So first record you bought with your own money.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the actual first one. It was a cassette tape. I'll tell you now, and I'm going to say it's most likely was Huey Lewis in the News.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, cassette tapes. I was buying vinyl. One of my first records was Love Gun by Kiss.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say that a huge thing for me was the Columbia House Records Club, where you could, you know, and that's how I got a lot of stuff. There was like, so that a part of all of that was the Cars, Duran Duran. I was a huge Duran Duran fan.
Yeah.
So like it's the Beach Boys. That's all like that same kind of era for me.
My dad had the Columbia House thing going on, and so he would get a free record every so often with his subscription, and I would get the freebies. And so I got Aerosmith and Kiss and Black Sabbath and all this stuff because I was into those bands at the time. But then I did do the Columbia House thing. Remember, you take the stamps. Nate Morton and I were talking about this. You put all the stamps on, and for a penny, you get 12 records, and then you're locked into a contract for the rest of your life. But I remember doing that and getting the 12 records shipped to my house, which was crazy. First drum that you had as a kid, which you said you got at Rupp's. What was that drum?
Yeah. So you know what? I think so. I wish I had it. I don't have it anymore. It was like I know it was a Ludwig. It was the Ludwig student model. It was the one in the black like clamshell case that has the stand that you put the stand in. I know half you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I don't think it was an acrylite. It was steel. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, the student model kit.
It was like a student model. I'm sure I could find a picture of it somewhere. And then my first kit was a 1965 Slingerland kit that my dad and I found out of the classifieds in the Rocky Mountain News.
Wow.
And the newspaper, it was it was a blue oyster finish. And I would do anything to have that back. I don't have it. And then I got another one like 3 years later. There was a 1970 Slingerland. There was like natural mahogany concert toms. And I had them both together in this mega kit. And I don't have that one either. I was that Ludwig student model, and then Slingerland. It was all Slingerland for those early days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go down a drum kit rabbit hole easily.
I actually just had to stop myself right now. I was like, no.
Yeah, because I was about to say what my first. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
So, first concert that you ever saw as a kid. First concert.
Okay, first concert. So I need to look up the dates. So it was at Fiddler's Green where I saw Rush later because my parents, they still live in the same house. They live like 1 mile away. So we could walk to the venue, which is crazy.
What? Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. And that's how I ended up going to that Rush show because we convinced me and my friend Chris convinced our parents to let us walk over to see Rush that night. So I need to look. So it was either the Beach Boys or Huey Lewis and the News.
Wow.
And because they were right about the same time. And my memory of the Huey Lewis show was that Bill Gibson took this huge drum solo and his tech or somebody was standing in front with a bucket full of sticks and he was soloing. And as he was I should try to find a video of this on YouTube. This has to exist. This is like probably 87, 88. Wow. And he would solo and then throw sticks into the crowd one at a time. And his tech would lob him another when he'd catch it and keep soloing. And I've never seen anything like that ever since then. And that was either show 1 or 2, but they were within a couple of months of each other. But it was because we lived so close to this venue. It's still there. The venue is still there, but it was just really lucky to have that there. I saw Miles Davis there also a couple of years later.
What?
Right before he passed away, which is amazing.
My God. Who was on drums?
That's it. You know what? I would have to look it up. It was like a jazz on the green thing, like right before Miles passed away.
Oh, wow.
But the same show, Tony Williams was there with the VSOP.
No.
At the same show.
Whoa.
But I was too young to really grasp the gravity of the situation.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like 5 years later, I was like, what? I was like, how did I see that stuff? All at that same place. So anyway, Beach Boys or Huey Lewis.
Oh my God. By the way, the Tony Williams thing, that there's a live in New York from 1989 of Tony Williams band. Really incredible, amazing. I can't remember the name of the DVD. I guess it was a DVD, but it's on YouTube. So everybody look that up. Tony Williams. Oh my God.
Oh,
so
yeah.
amazing.
Oh man.
An artist that you listen to besides Huey Lewis that would surprise people, given your history of stuff.
Oh man, I know everybody that knows me really well is thinking the same thing, so I have to say it. Totally, Olivia Newton-John.
Yes. Like, do you put on your roller skates and skate backwards and put on some early? Oh my God.
So yeah, I remember one of the
Is it
first
because
movies.
Xanadu?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I love that you knew that. That was amazing. Yeah. So weirdly not connected to Rush Xanadu. Like 2 huge Xanadus in my life, but totally unrelated. Actually, Dweezil one time said at rehearsal that we should learn like a little version of Olivia Newton-John of ELO, yes. Olivia Newton-John Xanadu into Rush Xanadu, yes. Which I know him really well. It's not going to no one be surprised if at some show we do like 1 minute of Xanadu medley at some point, because he's mentioned it before, because I'm always freaking out on Olivia Newton-John, aka ONJ, from now on in our conversation.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, but it was something about, I mean, you know how when you're young and like certain things impact you heavily, and seeing the movie Xanadu was huge for me. My dad loved that movie. And I remember we got a laser disc player and we had like 2 laser discs, and one of them was Xanadu. My dad had the soundtrack, and the soundtrack still to this day, and it's not just a nostalgia thing for me. Those songs are amazing. It's half ELO, half ONJ, and the ONJ songs are written by John Farrar, who's an amazing songwriter. And I need to write him. I know he's because everybody's accessible now because of, the internet. But I need to write him, but I'm pretty sure it's Carlos Vega on most of those ONJ tunes.
Really?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. But I need to reach out. And I've scoured the internet, and it's not like, the only way I'm going to really know for sure is if I write John somehow and say, hey. And I, in later years, became a massive Carlos Vega fan with James Taylor and everybody else, not all those GRP recordings. So it's like that, the ELO thing, and then the band in the movie is the Tubes.
Oh yeah, the Tubes are
and
really
and and I'm a
non.
huge Tubes fan, and that all goes back to seeing Xanadu when I was a little kid. Whenever they're around, I go see them. I love Prairie Prince.
Oh my God.
Huge Tubes fan. But it's funny how like one little thing. So yeah, Olivia Newton-John.
Olivia Newton-John. And by the way, the Tubes are like performance, rock kind of thing. Also, I mean,
Yeah.
as Dweezil's band is, and as Frank was, the Tubes have that spirit.
Well, and they used to, and I've seen them once do it. They would play Trouble Every Day, the Frank tune. Like
Wow.
there's crossover between that stuff. Yeah.
I feel like something like the Tubes probably spawned bands like Guar and like, other performance type, things.
I think you're right. Yeah, had to have an influence on that.
And
Like those early days
Sabbath.
of all that. Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned ELO briefly, and I have to say that Mr. Blue Sky record, the one with is that the name of the record? I forget the name of the record. The double record, ELO record, with Mr. Blue Sky on it and all that stuff. That's an amazing record.
Oh yeah, that's great. And a lot of that stuff too. And ironically, like the song Magic from the Xanadu soundtrack, there's that, like they recorded drums and cymbals separately on that stuff. And I didn't realize that until way later. And so like in the tune Magic, which even if you don't know what we're talking about, like last year Macy's used it in like a Christmas ad. So like you've heard the tune, you've heard it, like you've been getting a sandwich at Subway and it's come on. Like you've heard the tune before.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what they were doing because I was too young to know what was happening. And then later years I thought, oh, maybe they have they're running the hi-hat through a flanger.
Oh, that's funny.
2 hi-hat tracks. And so if you put it on and you pan it hard left, hard right, one of them is just straight 8th notes and the other one's just like in the other side.
Wow.
And then you can tell it's all pieced together separately, like once you dive into it. And I remember I was coming home from a gig one night, driving in LA on the 210 at like 3 a.m. And I was like, wait a minute, what if I panned it? And I panned it and I figured that out. And I was so excited. I almost rolled my car off the freeway. I was like, oh my God, I finally figured out the secret to magic after, 30 years. Now I know. And so now whenever I'm in question of anything, I'll pan it, especially if I'm learning tunes, no matter what the band is, I'll pan it and I'll be like, oh wait, no, you can really hear this on this side. You can't, it really helps kind of unmask drum secrets,
people. Imagine getting in your car and one of your speakers doesn't work.
You know what? Funny quick story. I played in this 70s band for a long time called AM/FM. It was like the not well-known 70s tunes. It was one of the most fun bands I've ever played in. And they had me learn this tune. I can't remember what tune it is right now. And so I showed up. So to your point, the speaker was blown. My right speaker was blown, whatever. I never thought about it. So I transcribed the tune in my car, like in the parking lot. I go in and play it. And I remember playing it and the guitar player, bass player, keyboard player were they're like, keep looking at me. And I'm like, what? And in my head, I'm like, what are they like? I'm like, I did this note for note. I know this is right. And they finally stop like 3/4 of the way through the tune. And they turn around. And I remember they're all laughing and they're like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I just learned the tune. I'm playing it note for note. They're like, that's not the song. Like, what are you doing? And they're laughing and they played it. And I'm like, wait, that's not what I learned. And they're like, yeah, you learned the wrong thing. And I'm like, oh no. And so the toms were panned. It was like whatever. I don't know. It was like 10/14 in one speaker, 12/16 the other. So all the fills I did, like the record, I was doing like half the fill.
Fills.
So the fill was like ga da ga ga da 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 da, and I'm going ga 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 back, and they're like, "What's wrong with this guy?"
Oh my God! Oh, that's hilarious.
So I got my speaker fixed after that in my car, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I should not learn stuff in my car and check panning." Anyway, yeah.
Oh my God, that's great. That's really funny. Oh my! Can you imagine you were learning Beatles songs? I mean, it would just be out of control.
That'd be bad. Yeah.
So, one artist that you haven't played with that you would love to play with, living or gone.
Easy, XTC.
You know the song "My Bird Performs."
That's one of the best songs ever, and Dave Maddox is one of the best drummers of all time.
100%. I love that tune. I love his playing on that. It's so, I don't know, that connects with me on a deep level, that tune.
That's amazing. Of all tunes, you mentioned that one. Yeah, I mean, the whole catalog is amazing, and for some reason, for me, the XTC Non-Such record, that's the record.
Is it.
That's the one that like really grabbed me. So we were on the road, it was a Dweezil solo tour. We were playing the record, the tour for Via Zamata, a record that we did with Dweezil, and I was up late on the bus one night. If you guys don't know, listen to Dave Maddox, because he's one of my top 5 favorite drummers of all time.
Really
he's
musical.
Unbelievable. And so I was on his website one night on the bus, and and there was like a little contact me thing. I was like, why not? Sure. So I wrote him this, email. I was like, you're amazing. And, and I was like, I know you're English. Do you live in the States? Where do you live? We go over to England too. I would love to take lessons from you. Do you teach lessons? Whatever. The next day he called me. I just thought I'll put my phone number in there. Why? Just because. And he called me the next day, and he's the sweetest guy ever and the most amazing drummer ever, and his ideas and his feel. Yeah. And so he says, hey, I live in Boston. When you come through next, let me know. So we go through whatever, like 3 months later, I reach out to him, and he's like, come out to my house. So I went out to his house and hung out at his house all day. And I get there, and he's like, what do you want to talk about? And I literally said, tell me every single thing about how you recorded the Non-Such record.
Wow.
Go. It's just like,
it's another moment, like, all these pinch me moments you have.
So we talked about that record for like 3 hours.
Oh my God.
And I really wanted to get inside of his head, because I love him so much. And a huge thing for me, and this was great, like I mentioned earlier, like watching Vinny close, me standing there watching Maddox play these tunes, like standing really close. I got into this whole thing. I'm a huge King's X fan.
Yeah.
And I went to see King's X years ago. I'd never seen them live before. And the curtain opens, the House of Blues on the here. It's gone now. The House of Blues on the Sunset Strip. Right. Curtain opens. I'd never seen Jerry Gaskill, one of my favorite drummers. Amazing. I've never seen him play. And he has this really unique way of playing. And it's almost like it's not a lot of, it's like very elbow oriented. Like and he sounds incredible, but it's like, the way we talk about it when we're teaching all the time. It's like, right. Look at, you got shoulder, elbow, wrist, fingers. And the way he plays is very unique. I remember the whole show thinking, So I went home and put on one of my favorite records by King's X, Dog Man. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try and look like him, like physically do that thing, like more, like, because I don't do that at all, like more elbows. And I knew immediately, I was like, I sound 25% more like Jerry Gaskill, like that.
Did we have this conversation once, or did I feel like I've heard
we may have before a show, maybe with your students sometime. I may have mentioned it.
Maybe. Yeah. Because I remember you saying, like, if you look like him in your movement, you're going to sound more like him. I remember this conversation. That's so great.
And it was all because of Jerry Gaskill. I got way into this. And so then I played along to all the King's X stuff, trying to do that. Yeah. And no one will sound like, he's amazing. No one's going to sound perfectly like anyone ever. But I was like, okay, I'm closer now.
Right.
And so then when I do the Dweezil gig, I envision Ralph. Like, what's Ralph physically look like? What's Chester look like?
Right.
What's Chad look like? And he's got the whole Spivak thing going on.
Yeah.
And like, what? And so I'm like, okay, what's Terry look like? Terry's going crazy with his shirt off, yelling at the camera, so I got way into this. So my point is, sitting next to Maddox, watching him do that stuff was like a massive revelation. And there's a YouTube thing too that the producer of that of None Such posted, because he shot a bunch of film
Oh,
for that. So if anybody is an XTC fan and hasn't seen that, check that out. And I didn't know about it till Dave himself told me. He was like, "Have you seen this?" I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's all this behind the scenes stuff on how we did None Such."
where
But
is
then
this?
just like physically, yeah, if you go to YouTube, if you put in like XTC None Such, Gus, the producer, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but Gus Dungeon, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly.
Wow.
Sorry. Like put that in and like it'll come up.
Oh
And
my God.
but like if you just try to embody the physicality of these players, but Maddox, I can't believe you have all songs. You mentioned that. That's one of my favorite songs ever. And that drum part, that's one of those things where like if you gave that song to 100 drummers, no one would do what Maddox did.
No.
No one.
No, not at all.
And that's why it's so that's so amazing.
It kind of like at the time, I think I was listening to a lot of Manu Katché, and I kind of felt like, oh, it's got that kind of vibe in a way, like something that Manu Katché might have played, you know, because he's sort of, you know, playing the snare driven part, and then, you know, the hat stuff in between. It's just so brilliant, I think. Yeah.
It's so good. You know what? And you know what I asked him too, because I started doing this years ago when I would research my favorite drummers. I want to know who they studied with.
Right.
Like how did he arrive at sounding like Dave Maddox? And so he told me this amazing story of this big band drummer that was in London that he used to go see. And like not his whole thing, but a lot of his stuff comes from him being a kid going to see this guy. And I was like, "Tell me about that guy."
Yeah.
And so he said that guy would do like these rolls where it'd be like this crescendo, like, and he Maddox himself even described it as like a circus thing, like, and so, but no one does that on pop tunes. Guess
Right.
what? Dave Maddox does that on pop tunes, and it
That's right.
sounds like $1 million. Because I was like, how did that come about? But I love it. So he was like, yeah, I saw it, like my big band guy, I can't remember the guy's name, that he used to go watch did that. So I love asking guys, you know, who are your favorite players? But wait, who did you study with? What was their thing?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So fun. And it's endless, right? It's like,
that's right. Drawing that line, you know, is really pretty amazing. I think we need to capture more of that, you know, like drawing these sort of connections from person to person. You know, and sometimes it's not a drummer, sometimes it's another musician, you know, that's been really influential.
Yeah, like immediately I think of like Clayton Cameron talking about tap dancers.
Right.
Like in that whole thing.
And he's not he's not the only one that's, you know, spoken about. I mean, if you go back to early film, there was a lot of tap dancing. So lots of tap dancers could play drums, and lots of drummers learned to tap dance, you know, like Buddy Rich.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. And actually when Jojo Mayer did his Secret Weapons 2 video, he has a tap dancer in that video, and he's teaching all the foot technique stuff, and it's really, really incredible. If you don't have that DVD, people, go get it.
Cool. I need to get that. Yeah, cool.
So weirdest gig you ever played, ever?
Wow. There's one I thought I don't even know if I can talk about it. I don't know if there's kids listening.
Well,
there's one of the first ones that pops into my head is aside from that one is in college there was a group of tuba players that would play Christmas tunes, and it was like 12 tuba players and drum set.
wow.
And that was some pretty amazingly out stuff. Like I remember, and that was forever ago, but I remember even on the gig thinking, this is probably never going to happen ever again. It's like me and 12 tubists like playing, you know, We Wish You a Merry Christmas and all this stuff.
I know there's a joke in there somewhere. There has to be.
Wait, I'm trying to think of some other. And there's some. I mean that one's one of the first one that pops in for sure.
Oh my
There's
God.
another one that I can tell people about later because I don't want any kids to hear about it. They're listening, so
I have a feeling that last one has go go in it somewhere. Um, Perhaps. Um, so
it's an offshoot of that.
most
Yeah,
amazing show you ever played, which I might have a guess on this one, but I'm not sure.
yeah.
So
I got a couple of those for the like chronologically for me. The first one for a while I toured with this Taiwanese pop star playing
oh,
huge
Chin Chin,
arenas
right?
all over China.
Chi Chin?
Just yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
dude, good job. Yeah, Jim, you're the man.
yeah.
Yeah. So I did that for a while, and that was playing like Madison Square Garden sized venues all over China with
Wow.
this guy this artist that no one here has ever heard of, but over there he was literally like the Michael Jackson of Asia, and we had to have police
Wow.
escorts everywhere, and it was amazing. So we did a show in Shanghai in this arena, New Year's from 03 going into 04. I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was like it was electric. Everybody had glow sticks, like, and we were on a square
Oh my
stage in the
God.
center of the arena in the round, and it was
What?
like 20,000 people. New Year's show. That was one of those. It was just like this is amazing, and it was also funny because I don't speak Mandarin, and so he's speaking in Mandarin the whole time to the crowd, and so there was a guy they hired. This was his job was when I needed to count the tune off, he would flash a flashlight at me because I had no idea. I'm just sitting there and he's talking and I have no idea what he's saying. And
Wow.
they'd be like, flash, 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 1, 2, you know.
Don't change the set list.
Yeah,
That's
right. No, yeah, no way. Yeah. And
oh my God.
it was before everybody had in-ear monitors and you could talk to people in the band.
Oh my God.
And like there was none of that, or I'd have to intently listen to them when he'd say one phrase that meant I had to count it off. And he'd talk for like 3 minutes and then say like, Ho Tsai Tian Tong, and then which is probably horribly pronunciated by me, but it means like match made in heaven. And then I'd have to count it off. That was super fun with one of my best friends, a phenomenal guitar player who lives in Taipei named Mike McLaughlin. But that show was magical show. Shows since then, there's two that pop in immediately. Red Rocks
I knew it.
with Dweezil, because I grew up again from Denver, so I grew up going to Red Rocks all the time. I told you about the first venue. So I went to Red Rocks the first time, was seeing Robert Plant on the Manic Nirvana tour
Oh
with a
wow.
band opening for them that no one really knew called the Black Crows. That they did pretty good for
Yeah, they did
themselves.
okay.
Yeah, they did okay. Yeah. And so I mean I've been going there since I was in middle school, and to play Red Rocks, similar to the Boulder Theater I mentioned earlier, but to play Red Rocks was mind blowing, and that was opening for Humphreys McGee.
Oh wow.
We're playing with Dweezil, and actually that show we did a medley part of that tour. We did it that night. We did, and you can find it actually thanks to Bob, who you mentioned earlier. Bob's awesome. Bob posted this. There's a version of it that's in its entirety on YouTube, and it's 136 80s songs in 26 minutes.
Oh wow.
And we did it at Red Rocks, and the crowd was going crazy
Wow.
because a lot of them they didn't know a lot of the Zappa material because they're there to see Humphreys McGee and we're the opening band, but they all knew the 136 80 songs.
Wow.
And so people would record it, phones up in the air, once they realized what was going on, but phones would like stop recording after 10 minutes and it was too long. So there's no, I don't know if there's one version on video in its entirety, but there is an audio recording that's out there that Bob posted. That yeah, I could post the link later tonight if anybody wants to listen to it. So we did that there, and the crowd going crazy, sold out Red Rocks for me. And then we did the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland,
Right.
opening for Deep Purple on the it was the 50th anniversary of the Smoke on the Water concert, because that song is about, if some of you don't know, it's about Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
And they were at Montreux, and Frank was playing, and the venue was on fire, and you can research all that stuff. So we played, and then Dweezil came out with Deep Purple, and Dweezil played. I wasn't part of that. I was watching, but Dweezil played Peaches with Deep Purple, and then he played Smoke on the Water
Wow.
with
Oh
them,
my
and
God.
that was crazy. Like packed show in Switzerland on the anniversary of that. That was
One of my
nuts.
early Southpaw influences, since I'm a Southpaw. Yeah, Ian Pace, for sure.
So good.
Yeah, so
So
good.
and he and another guy, he was the sweetest guy in the world. He was like, oh, check out the kit. And I remember looking at his kit, and he was like, sit down. I was like, I don't really, I don't want to mess anything up. He was like, Ryan, sit down.
Sit down.
Sit down. I was like, dude, he was so gracious. And actually, we're supposed to, and then it was canceled because of COVID. And I think it's happening next summer. We have a couple more shows opening for Deep Purple.
Oh my God. You have to tell me.
Which will be amazing.
Because I will go.
In Europe, with Dweezil in Europe. I think they're both in Austria. I think like June of 2022.
I won't be there, but I'll definitely,
sorry.
I was like, oh, maybe they're in New York. No. Sorry.
No, yeah. And I was super lucky. One of the times, very fortunate to be written up in Modern Drummer, and one of the Modern Drummers I'm in, Ian's on the cover. And I need to get him to sign that issue. Yeah. So I already have written down. If we do that, I need to take that and see if he'll sign it for me.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So yeah, I'd say those three are the ones that pop into my head.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I think you covered this, but the most embarrassing thing that ever happened on a gig or session, I mean, one of them was that you learned half a tune because your speaker was missing.
That was funny.
Is there another one, like a most embarrassing thing on a gig, perhaps?
Most embarrassing thing. I mean, there's not a lot of really crazy stuff. Like, there's crazy stuff, but not embarrassing stuff. Like one I immediately think of was on the cruise ship. This used to happen to me, and you wear glasses. Like I wear glasses when I play, and sometimes the stick will get caught here.
Oh yeah.
And but you're playing and it'll just rip your glasses off your face.
Yeah, there's a great video of Dom Famularo doing that in a clinic somewhere. I think it was in Brazil. And he was playing this solo, charging up the crowd, and the stick gets caught, flings his glasses off, which go flying, and he kind of hurt himself. It's like all red, and doesn't miss a beat. Of course, keeps playing his solo. But yeah, I saw the glasses just go flying. So yeah.
Oh, I feel for him. Yeah, I mean and that's not fun. I remember that happening on the ship, and the reason that matters is because I was sight reading this show with this. It was like these performers would come in those situations, and you never play it. So the first time you're sight reading it in front of 1,000 people, and then I knock my glasses off. But guess what? I need my glasses. Now I can't read the chart. And then I remember looking down, and my glasses are like, here's the bass drum pedal, and they're like sort of on the pedal, and I'm like, I can't crush them. And also like like I'm in between like St. Martin and St. Thomas, and there's no lens crafters there.
Oh my God.
So it's like trying to figure out how to keep reading, not messing up the show, trying to grab them and play one-handed and not crush them because I can't replace them.
Right. Oh my God. So now now you're playing open-handed, trying to reach down and grab your glasses. Not good.
And honestly, it was after that experience where now I always have my previous pair of glasses in my backpack just in case.
Yeah.
My glasses get crushed. So it's like one less thing to worry about. I guess I talk about this when I teach, but I was a Boy Scout when I was a kid. It's like what's the motto? Be prepared. So I've always got a spare pair. Even like I did a fly date this past weekend up in Carmel. Even on that, I made sure I was like, I've got my backup glasses just in case. Yeah.
Wait, how did you pull that off when you did the I saw you at the Beacon on Halloween, and you had the Star Wars, the whole costume on with the helmet and everything. I was like, I was in my mind, I was trying to channel ice cubes into your helmet to help you because You were like sweating so bad inside this like orange suit with the helmet and the whole thing. Did you have your glasses on under the helmet?
Yes,
Oh
I
my
have them on
God.
under the helmet, and that all stems from an '80s band I started playing in like 10 years ago, and I had that costume. And so as weird as it sounds, it's like they have, hot yoga, like Bikram yoga. This It's like Bikram drumming. Like you're not hot enough already, so let's wear like a jumpsuit. And I'm just used to it now. It gets very hot in there. It's funny you mentioned that. My memory of that show was we walked. Some of you may have seen him there. John McEnroe, the tennis player, is a huge Zappa fan. And he goes, I think he lives near the Beacon somewhere
Yeah.
there, and he comes to see us every time we play there. And I remember, I remember walking backstage afterwards in the whole thing, holding the helmet. I turned the corner backstage, and I'm like face to face with John McEnroe, who I'd not met before, which is also hilarious. And he looks at me, and he was like, "How in the hell did you play that show for 3 hours with this costume?" He's like, "Let me see that helmet." And he like grabbed the helmet and put the helmet on, and I was just like,
Oh my God.
"Oh, this is hilarious." But yeah, I have my glasses on under that. You know what's funny is that the helmet is the geekiest thing I've ever said, ever. When I wear my X-Wing costume helmet, the X-Wing helmet sort of keeps the glasses contained on my face because it's like
Oh.
sort of, yeah,
So maybe that's your thing. You just got to wear the helmet all the time.
that's my thing. I'm like X-Wing helmet guy, like forever.
We had
That would be amazing.
16 people came to that show. There was 16 of us. I think we had a whole row. I mean,
You're amazing.
almost. We had a whole row. And then I brought the kids, I think, out to the lobby at the end to the merch booth, and you came out, and they got to meet Dweezil, and they took pictures. And one of my students, a few of my students are friends with this young girl, Catherine, who plays bass, and so she was really excited to meet the band, and she went on to already tour with the touring Waitress, the touring show of Waitress.
Oh wow.
And she's making some moves in the industry in New York, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, good for
So
her.
like
Oh,
you
that's
guys,
awesome.
you guys are like making waves with the stuff you do, and hopefully I am too.
That's cool. Well, good for her. That's cool to hear. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you got me thinking about those shows now. Really quick. There's one of the Halloween we did there before. I dressed up like Animal from the Muppets, and it took like 4 cans of orange spray paint, like spray hair paint, whatever stuff, to like make my hair orange like Animal's hair. And then after the show, I remember showering in the theater at the Beacon and getting all that crap out of my hair. And the spray paint stained the side of the shower in the Beacon.
Oh my God.
I felt so bad. I didn't intend for that to happen. And then every time we play there, I go to that same room, and you can still see like the dripping residue of the paint from my Animal.
Oh my
spray
God, that's
paint.
so great.
I was like, oh my God.
Did
It
you
took
get a photo
forever
of
to get that out of my hair.
Yeah, oh my God, that's so great. By the way, I just also wanted to mention that, you were very gracious to come see my students at another Beacon show, and we were at the diner next door because we would always go to the diner before. And you and I were on the phone, and you were like, "Oh, I'll come over." So you came over to the diner, and they didn't know you were coming, and they were just all like, like sitting there, like floored that you came into the diner and hung for a few minutes. So that was very nice of you, by the way.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me over there, and thank you for bringing people and exposing people to Frank Zappa's music. And
Oh my God.
it's always fun to meet people and talk about music and Zappa and drums and
Oh,
all this stuff. And those Beacon shows too. You're talking about favorite shows. Anytime you play the Beacon, it's always
my God, yeah.
one of those. Also, it's just like it's a magical place.
And I was
playing there.
seeing, I was seeing the, the original lineup there for a bit, and I did get to see, Steve Vai and Terry play there, and on those shows, Steve Vai brought his mother up on stage at one of them, which was like adorable. He brought his mom up on stage. It was so cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if she lives in town or if she was in town because of the show, but it was kind of cool. He brought his mom up. That was a sweet moment.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I wanted to mention one other like sweet thing that really still messes with me a lot is every time Dweezil would play Watermelon and Easter Hay, he would get so emotional, right? Because first of all, it's a lullaby.
Hmm.
in 9, right? I think
Hmm.
it's in 9. And it's
Yeah.
like it's such a beautiful, if you guys, anybody listening doesn't know that song, it's at the end of the Joe's Garage thing, and first of all, the line that Frank says leading into it about imaginary vocals and imaginary guitar solos are only imagined by the imaginer, and
Uh-huh.
then it kicks into that melody, and then his solo on that is just unbelievable. It's one of my favorite Frank solos ever. And I know Dweezil said that on stage, and then he would get really emotional, and the whole audience would be like weeping, watching those performances. And you could still find those, some of those performances on YouTube. It's really emotional. I can't listen to that song without getting super emotional. Does the band feel that same emotion, that same deep emotion that's going on?
Yes, every time,
Yeah, right?
100%. And I mean, even before I got in the band, I've always told my wife, sort of morbidly speaking, I've always told her at my funeral, you need to play Watermelon and Easter Hay. Like I've told her that for years.
Right.
And I get in the band, and then we did it like my first tour, we started playing it, and every time, so not even counting all of that, for me personally, it's always been such a gorgeous song and just really sweet, heavy song.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's that. And then, watching Dweezil's reaction to it, and he always, no matter
Yeah.
when we play it, he's very emotional with it. And
Every
you all
time.
look over at Sheila and Kurt, and we're all like, everybody's super, super emotional. It's like, I mean, there's a lot involved in that, but I think for all of us, it's just, it's a reminder, I mean, we're out there playing the music every night. It's the most fun thing in the world, but I mean, sadly, he's gone.
Right.
And it's like it kind of makes it more, it brings in the humanistic element of it, I guess, where it's like this reminder of like, this is his son, right? It was
Yeah.
his dad, he's gone. It's like, and it's really, really heavy
Yeah.
when we play it, and it always has a lot of weight to it.
Right. And you
you
guys
know
play it, it's paying respect to the man, to the relationship, to the son. It's like all of that wrapped into one. And then it's just beautifully played. And that's, that always gets me every time. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too, because it's a good example of, just speaking of the tune, of how a lot of Frank songs, there's an ostinato going on that's
Right.
being played by some group of instruments that can change, and it could be just the bass,
Yeah.
or like in that song, it's like, the second guitar part playing that line with the keys,
Right.
and that's just repeats forever.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like Frank was so amazing at this, where there's like that thing grounding the tune. That Watermelon's a good example of it. And then the guitar floating on top of it, and doing whatever he wants to do.
Right.
And the drums, to a large extent, also following the guitar, while there's this thread through of this ostinato holding everything together. There's something about that that's really, really special. And for any drummer is really fun, because the ostinato is almost never the drummer.
Right.
It's almost always somebody else, and then you get to follow the soloist. It's just, getting to play the music. If anybody watching, if you're fans, if you can find fans of Frank, and you can find other people to play the music with, I can't even recommend that enough, because once you get inside the tunes and you start playing them, it's like it's a whole other thing.
Right. Yeah.
Whole
Yeah.
other,
For sure. Ed Palermo Big Band. Right.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. Ray
Slamming.
Marchica. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ray Marchica's a great drummer. Um, yeah.
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 Yeah. Just so, I like a term, actually, Mike Ramsey, who you mentioned earlier. Mike Ramsey told me this, and I love this. Mike Ramsey's the drummer that plays in the Rush band. He lives in
Right.
St. Louis. We were talking about earlier. Um, he used this term. He's like, it's like you take the training wheels off. And I always love that. It's like you play with a record, the training wheels are there, and then all of a sudden you're the drummer having to lead the band through everything, and there's no training wheels anymore. And like, it's you. It's a totally different feeling when it's all on you trying to lead these people through these compositions. and you can't lean on anything. And if there's a bar of 5 and then a bar of 7 and a bar 11 in a row and you mess it up and you're playing with a record, oh, no big deal. You jump back on. If you're doing that live and you mess it up, the the you crash and you burn.
It's like riding a unicycle through Chinatown.
It's yeah, it's exactly
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's like it's a whole different ball of wax when you're trying to do that. So
yeah. Oh my God. All right. So these are stupid questions that are real quick, and then we're gonna get wrapped up in a minute here. So because
we're good.
Okay, because I always start to feel like, oh man, he has a kid and a wife and a dog.
No, I'm good.
I'm like,
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks. No, we're good. This is awesome. This has been awesome. I love it.
It's good fun, man. It's good fun. And a lot of course this will be archived over on YouTube, and then lately now I've been starting to edit things and get them up on Instagram, and we'll have so many like little clips that we could put up, which there's so many great quotes that I'm going to find that you've said tonight, which are inspirational to both me and all the people that are watching and listening. So, but I want to ask, I'm going to say the names of the drummers, and then I just want the first thing that pops in your head, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
So, and we didn't go there at all tonight, but Steve Gadd.
Chick Corea.
Nice.
Friends record, Leprechaun. Friends,
yeah.
Leprechaun.
Cappuccino.
Yeah.
Neil Peart.
Hero.
Nice. Buddy Rich.
Fast.
You've said that before. I have notes.
Yeah. It's I mean, I don't even know. He's one of those guys. It's funny. I was with somebody the other night. We were talking about Butch Miles.
It's in my notes.
Butch Miles, one of my favorite drummers who I got to study with, and he's like the guy that can do that now. That whole thing, which is just like, and not, I mean, I said fast, not just fast, but like fast, intense, West Side Story. Just hearing all that, like mind blowing. Nobody else can do that. Wait, I can't see. What's it say?
Butch Miles, jazz camp in Boulder, Colorado.
Unbelievable.
And you wrote, I wrote your teacher, Butch Miles.
Unreal. I need to find. I haven't talked to him. I mean, he wouldn't even remember me. I was a kid that went to a camp, but again, it's like
he's
earlier,
here. It's like, you're lucky. Come here, Butch. Come on over. No,
yeah. That was one of the earliest examples for me of like standing there watching someone do it in front of you.
Right.
And I always thought Buddy was unbelievable. And I always loved it and had all these cassette tapes, Rich versus Roach and the West Side Story thing and all these recordings. But when you stand there and you watch, and I never got to see him live, unfortunately. He passed away like the year I started playing drums.
Oh wow.
I never got to see him, but Butch Miles was like the embodiment of all that, and to watch him do it live, and it's just like, whoa, oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Like whirlwind and like the most finesse ever and the most dynamics ever. Wow. It could get down so soft, like and then Erskine pops in my mind.
Yeah.
Like you can play so soft and it feels so amazing. And then it can be this, a minute later, this roar in this shout chorus, and then boom, drop back down.
Yeah.
Like the dynamic thing is huge in that.
I was lucky enough to see Buddy Rich once when I was a very little kid at Brooklyn Academy of Music. And my dad took me. It was Mel Torme with Buddy Rich Big Band. And I found out later that a friend of mine, Bob Minster, was playing horns with the band at the time. So that was way. Pretty wild. So, I did get to see it, but very far away, very blown away, obviously by the performance. But just like you, I had seen like the Tonight Show stuff and the stuff with Ed Shaughnessy, the drum battles, and then. Which brings me to our next person. Animal, like,
I knew you were gonna say it.
right?
I love it.
So, first
I
of
love
all,
it. I
what
love
pops into your
it.
mind with Animal?
I think the first time, I think there's a lot of people my age that this was the instance of the first time you saw a drummer on TV that it was Animal, as crazy as that sounds. So Ronnie Verrell playing all that stuff. But and I think I don't even think I would say the first time I ever saw Buddy Rich had to have been when he was on the Muppet Show, The Battle with Animal, and I've watched that a million times. But like it had to have been the first time I saw Buddy Rich, and it just just Animal is so funny for being what it is, like how that brought the element of what we all do and love into your living room.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's this killer band, and yeah, it's this puppet, but there's somebody doing it, and he sounds
Somebody's playing.
amazing.
Yeah.
He's killing it. Whoever that is, and that can't be lost. Like that's a huge thing. That's one of my go-to trivia questions when I'm teaching. Like if I'm doing a clinic and there's a giveaway and I'm giving away a symbol, I'm always like, who was the drummer behind Animal?
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. And
so
actually,
that
you said Animal. Nate Morton said Animal was one of his influences, one of his favorite drummers, actually, he said. And another kind of funny thing is I had Carmine Rojas on the show, and he said that he had the idea for the drum battle and approached Jim Henson, and he kind of said, Animal kind of looks like me a little bit. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's true.
I never thought of that.
Animal looks like Carmine Rojas, like in the day, right? And
I
then,
never thought of that.
And so he brought it to their attention, and they were like, that's a great idea. And they got back to him, and they said, hey, Carmine, yeah, we loved your idea. We have good news. We really love the idea. But we also have bad news. Buddy Rich is going to do the drum battle, like, because Carmine wanted to do it. And Carmine said that he came up with the idea for him to go on the show and do the battle with Animal because he looked like him, and they used Buddy Rich. So,
oh my gosh, I'd never heard that before.
Womp, womp.
Oh wow, wow. That's well. I guess it's not too late.
Right.
It can still happen.
Yeah. It can still happen. You ever see those videos of they took the band from the Muppets, and then they did like Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, right?
They're Rick rolled. Yeah.
Yeah, Rick rolled. And then they have one that's death metal one.
Oh no.
It's like Nile or something, and it's like Beaker is, it's like one of those slow tempos where they're just, before the blast section, and Beaker's just like, whoa. It's like so funny, man. So look up death metal Muppets. Very, very.
I will definitely do that. Yeah, it's really funny. So I'm 45, so it's like it seems like any drummer I talk to that's right around my age, the Animal thing always comes up because
totally.
I mean, what there were 12 channels on TV. There was no way to record stuff, so you would wait for the show to come on, and then there was always drums on it. Yeah. It was a kids show. Like it's kind of amazing. Like the impact that has had. But that Buddy Rich thing with him, I've watched that so many times.
Yeah, it's so great.
I don't play the theater. I play the theater.
By the way, one other little drumistic thing from that era. Well, pre that era. But you ever see Ernie and Bert? Like Ernie was always playing drums, and he's like, hey Bert, watch me play the drums, and he would like play, and somebody took that clip, and he counts it off. He's like, and a 1 and a 2 and a chicka-boom, right? And then somebody overdubbed blast beats and has Ernie moving at like 350 beats per minute going. Yeah. So anyway, it's called Ernie and Bert Go Brutal, by the way.
Okay. I think I've maybe seen that years ago. I need to watch that again though.
It's pretty. I laugh every time I see that thing. I don't know. All right. So
yeah. Who else is on that list?
Okay. So we did Gad, we did Pierre, we did Buddy Rich, we did Animal. So these three, just because you've mentioned them, so Shelly Manne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So my teacher, speaking of that whole lineage thing earlier, was way into Shelly. and that whole generation. So when I started taking lessons when I was 11, I was immediately given all the Shelly Manne stuff to listen to and learn and digest.
Right.
So that was like instilled in me at like 11, 12 years old.
And probably
Um,
Mel Lewis maybe at the same time.
totally.
Yeah,
The,
yeah.
the Mel Lewis thing. Yeah. Yeah. What's that tune? Low Down, not the Boss Skaggs one. There's another one, right? Yeah.
Right.
It was, yeah, like all those in that generation, like that was, and I was talking about this with my buddy, with Kevin Stevens, who I share this room with on Saturday. It's, um, just the impact that all that stuff has just at an early age, right? And that those teachers have, and Mel Lewis and the dynamics, and really getting you to focus on that, and the fact that, uh, like a lot of people I know started in school band. And so when you're doing school band, it's all jazz, it's all big band. And so
Right.
you're in that whole world right from the get-go, which is so cool. And listening to those guys and trying to incorporate that into your playing. But Mel Lewis, yeah, definitely dynamics is one thing that pops into my head.
By the way, that just for some reason just reminded me that like in middle school, my middle school band director was a huge Chuck Mangione fan because he was a trumpet player and he played flugelhorn and trumpet. And he played us. You ever hear that track Pina Colada of
Yeah.
Fun and Games?
Yeah.
He
Yes.
played that for us, which is almost like a scat thing, right? It's like a vocal, sort of vocal feature thing that Chuck was doing, right? And he's like singing trumpet parts at the top of that. It's just a groove and voice. And I remember we were just all hysterical laughing, like, what the heck is this? 'Cause, coming from what we listened to, that was like really foreign.
Like, what is this? Yeah. Well, and it's funny because Feels So Good,
Yeah.
the huge hit that he had, that actually in the Dweezil band, that's a hand cue that Dweezil can give us at any time. And I mean, any time in any song, and he'll give it. And whatever the next downbeat is, I set it up and we go into that.
Do you do like
For
like a little
Yeah.
setup fill, right?
Yeah, like a set of film, and then like ba 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 da ba da, and we'll do it for a
That's
certain
great.
length, and then right back into the tune where we were.
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I always have to watch for those cues. But
I
that's
must
funny
have
you
seen
mentioned.
that at some point. I've seen you guys so many times. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet you have, and it could be, it might not happen, or it could be one time, or it could be 100 times in a night.
That's great.
Like you never know. But you made me think of that.
Just keep going back
Yeah,
to it.
like what was the we played in Tucson at the Rialto Theater one time, and the hand cue was "Hold On Loosely" by 38 Special. And that, whenever a friend just posted the other day, he was playing that venue, and I immediately thought of "Hold On Loosely" because it was in every song like 8 times that whole night. And the whole show, we were all laughing. We were like almost crying. We were laughing so hard because he threw the hand signal like 100 times, and
Oh
it
my
became the
God.
"Hold On Loosely" show. And then it never happened ever again. Like you never know what's gonna happen.
You know what would be hilarious would be What's New Pussycat? Like Tom
Oh
Jones
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that would be funny.
That would be pretty funny. What I did with that one time was I was in a diner, and you used to be able to just stack tunes, right? So I just kept punching in that tune over and over and over, like 11
That's
times.
perfect.
I was like, 50 cents? This is worth it, man. 50 cents,
Oh,
50
yeah.
cents, 50 cents, 50 cents. And it would just, because it ends, and then there's the vocal cue, and then it would start again. And I'd just see everybody around going like, oh my God, it's playing this again? That's pretty
I remember
funny.
we were at a bar one time, and they had a jukebox, and they had moving pictures. And so I loaded in the camera eye because it's long.
Yeah.
I loaded in the camera eye like 10 times in a row.
That's great.
I paid for it too. I was like, this is going to be great. And I remember once my friends and my wife like realized, they were like, oh no. They're like,
Not again.
they're like, they like Rush, but they don't want to listen to it for like 3 hours at a bar. And then I remember there was some girl at the bar, at the bar, like 10 feet away. And after like 20 minutes, she just turns around and she just goes, what is this? Why is this still on?
as she's unplugging the jukebox.
It was so funny. And there were like still like 7 more to go.
Oh my God.
So...
That's great. Okay, so these don't need, like long explanations. Again, it's first thing that pops in your head. So I'm gonna do a few Zappa drummers. So Vinny.
Joe's Garage is the first thing that pops in my head.
Cool. Posio.
Zappa, New York.
Chester.
That he sat in with us in Nashville when we were playing One Size Fits All front to back, and he sat in and played Florentine Pogan, and the whole show he was like, I'm here and the curtain's here, and he was right behind the curtain for the whole show. No pressure, right?
Oh my
God. And I'm like playing his parts, and the whole show I turn around and he's 8 feet behind me or less, and he's like looking through the curtain. He was just going,
yeah. That's awesome. I have a signed picture right up above, and I went to a clinic and saw him. He's a sweetheart, right? And
he's the nicest. Oh my gosh.
I just kept asking. I just kept asking him about playing with Frank. He's like, and he was very generous with his time. He just kept talking to me, but because a lot of people were just like Genesis and like.
You're right.
And that Zappa thing.
Yeah. And then that show also. Sorry. Then that it's longer answer than you wanted. But then that show, because he played Florentine Pogan, we asked him, our tour manager did, if he could get a gorilla costume. And so when they did Chester's Gorilla, then Pete, who I mentioned earlier, Pete Jones, had the gorilla costume and climbed out on the stage as the gorilla with Chester on stage.
Oh, that's great.
That's like, that'll forever be that whole night with Chester hanging out with him all night was magical.
Pete does all the like shenanigans, right? Like,
yes.
But didn't he also come out and sing Van Halen with you guys one night?
Yep. He does the David Lee Roth, and he'll dress up like David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
And he'll do the like all the Bongo Fury stuff, all the Captain Beefheart stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Scratch, and the Lancelotti vocal parts and all that. Yeah.
Right. And then he'll run monitors, right? It's like,
yes.
It's like crazy.
He'll run monitors, and then like one time some drunk guy tried to climb on stage during the Black Page, and he tackled him and threw him off the stage. That's what Pete does. Wow.
That is a valuable asset to the
He's a good guy to have around.
Ralph Humphrey, who's going to be my guest in a few weeks.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I mean, so many songs pop into my head. I mean, so many, like overall, like thinking about like the physicality thing too. He was just so relaxed.
Yeah.
I guess would be like the thing, like he's killing it and like playing super fast and all this crazy stuff. And he looks like he's just hanging out.
Yeah, not moving much.
Like not moving, and like all this crazy stuff's going by, and he's just like, I guess like relaxed economy of motion while just burying everything on the gig. It's just like playing it perfect.
Yeah.
And just there's zero stress, just totally
Zen.
Yeah.
By the way, so at every show, somebody inevitably yells out. Somebody will yell out Studio Tan, or yell out Gregory Peccary. So, have you guys ever done any pieces of that, or of Gregory Peccary, or because there's so many amazing little nuggets in that. It's just incredible. And is that Chester playing on?
Yes.
On most of that, right?
Yeah. Yes. And we've talked about it, but that's a very large undertaking.
Yeah.
And so we haven't done that yet.
What would be fun is if you guys just did like the first 8 bars just to mess with people. And then it's just like, the adventures of Gregory Peccary. And then just do the little, up to like maybe, here comes little Gregory Peccary, and then go into something else. That would mess with the audience.
Like Chuck Mangione. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Make that the hand cue.
That's I remember we've talked about it a bunch. Like so when we rehearse, that's actually a whole other, not to derail your thing. Sorry.
No.
Like we normally rehearse for like a month. 7 hours a day, every day.
Oh wow. Yeah.
But before we go out, but I mean, the music is, I mean, you all know, like, we're, what the music is. So it takes a long time to get it up. So,
Yeah.
my thought with that is just Gregory Peccary would be like a
Yeah.
couple of weeks every
Oh, yeah.
day
Yeah.
to get all, or more, like to get it together. So it would be, but you know what though? Now I'm thinking about it, since Dweezil's finished his new home studio, we're gonna rehearse there. His home
his
studio,
little 4-track studio.
yeah, we're gonna rehearse there from now on. So now that it's in his house, we would have more time to do stuff like that.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Where he's, meaning he's not paying somewhere else to use the room.
By the way,
So now it's at his place.
so that would be amazing if you guys ever did some of Gregory Peccary. But that just reminded me. So you guys are going to be rehearsing at his place now, and could you tell, like, you could tell a condensed version, but you were rehearsing where you were normally rehearsing, and didn't Van Halen rehearse in the same building?
Yes.
And you guys were like, knew that they were coming that day?
Yes.
And the band was like standing outside waiting for Van Halen to show up, right?
We took a lot of breaks that day. We're like, that day they showed up, Dweezil wasn't there.
Right.
And so he wasn't there. So we would play for like, 45 minutes, and then we'd be like, are they here? Are they here? Any car? Yeah, we were the place that we rehearse in LA, there's always some amazing band next door.
Right.
Like, Queens of the Stone Age, or them, or there's so many people. I'm trying to think of other people. Derek Smalls from Spinal Tap. One time, like, Harry Shearer's next door, like doing this, rehearsing Spinal Tap. And
oh my God.
All that, you never know who is going to be at these places here. So Van Halen said that day, that was funny because we keep going outside. And so first, like, we heard this crazy sports car, like, through the wall. We were like, oh, that has to be one of them. And we go out, we kind of casually go outside, and it was Eddie, and he gets out of his like Audi R8, and he was there. They were all super nice. And he got out of his car. He's like, hey, what's up, guys? He didn't know who we were. Cause he and Dweezil,
yeah.
Like this, he didn't know that it was Dweezil's band yet. And so he gets out, says hi, and walks in. And then, same thing happens like 20 minutes later. It was Alex. And, he gets out, and he said hi, and, went in. And then Wolfgang showed up, same thing. And then we're all like, well, where's Dave? He's got to be coming sometime. I'll never forget ever. This black Toyota Tacoma pickup truck pulls in, and all of us look over, and we're like, oh, well, that's not, because in my head, I'm like, what's he going to drive? Like some BMW. I don't know what he drives,
Yeah.
But it's not that, right? And the windows are down on the truck. There's no cap on the truck, and the windows are down, and whoever's in there is blasting Uptown Funk, which probably a lot of you played on cover gigs, and I have is a million times as well. And so and it's like, blasting Uptown, singing along, and we all look over, and we look, and we look, and we follow the car, and it's David Lee Roth in the black Toyota Tacoma, and I mean, as loud as the stereo can go, blasting Uptown Funk, singing along with it, pulls in, doesn't get out till the song ends, which is, I love, shuts the door, looks over, and he's like, hey, what's up, guys? You guys having a great day? And like walks in, and we're like, all right, like, there you go. So now whenever I hear Uptown Funk, I see him in my head, like waiting in his car for the song to finish before he comes in the rehearsal building.
Ear to ear smile, like the crazy.
Oh yeah. And it was funny. There was a student of mine from MI who was working the front desk, like the reception area at this place. And he walks up, he like says hi to us because we're outside, walks up, and he's like, hey man, what's your name? My student tells him, he's like, my name's Dave. It's going to be a great couple weeks working with you. Shakes his hand, but he was super personable, and
wow, like
went around to everybody there and shook their hands, and we're all like, wow. And he's definitely a larger than life character. Like that's him all the time. Every time he was there, he was always like just on.
Yeah. I mean,
the whole time.
I think that's just him, right? I mean,
yeah.
Some people, people are like, oh, is that just an acting? Nope. That's him.
No, that's not. It is not an act. That's him. And yeah, in the like, we were next door to them for like I want to say a month or just shy of a month, but they weren't always there. it was like, they wouldn't always show up, or Jess Steady would show up and figure out guitar tones or something like that. But he was probably there like two of the weeks, or 2 weeks, 14 days total over that time. But he's like that. And Alex's tech, John Douglas, who some of you may know, who is also tech for John Tempesta and a whole, I think he's done ZZ Top and a bunch of other bands. And JD is like one of the nicest guys ever. And he came out one day and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come check out the gear?" I was like, "Yes, please." And it took me in and we got to look around. But it is funny though. The funniest part was like we'd finish like Catholic Girls or whatever, and as the cymbals are dying, you hear Panama from the room next door.
Oh, like, that's hilarious.
Hilarious things. Like, Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch is fading out, and Jump is happening with David Lee Roth. It's just like,
oh my God. By the way, since you got to check out the room, did he have like the massive kit in there, like the tour kit, or?
Yeah, that kit, it was featured in Modern Drummer on the Gearing Up thing later, and it was the one with like 6 bass drums.
Does it have the air tubes connecting them all?
It wasn't the air tube one. I think that was maybe the tour previous.
Oh, okay.
But there was so much gear, and then there were two kick drums in front, like normal double bass setup, and then the ones on the side, and there were these woofers in front of those.
Oh, wow.
So there were like 8 kicks on stage.
Yeah.
And then I probably shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Speaking pedal.
There was a double pedal hooked up to one bass drum.
Right. I know
and
that.
It was like, do you know? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it was like an ancient.
Yeah. An old Campo or something like.
Yeah. It was like the oldest. And I'm like, really? Like, he could probably buy another pedal if
he loves that pedal, probably.
Ancient pedal. Yeah, like it's the one he's had forever. It was a double pedal hooked up to one bass drum. So of like the 8 on stage, it was actually only one.
There's only one you're actually hearing.
And then the woofer in front of that was JD built as a mic holder to hold the mic for that one. So there's only one bass drum with a double pedal. And then the throne was like an ancient Yamaha throne that I swear was like this high off the ground.
Oh,
like I sat down. And Alex is tall also. And I sat down and like my knees were like so high up in the air. I was like, how does he play like this?
Oh my God. Wait, is this snare like below his knees?
His snare, well, it's like for him, I don't know. Like, but it was
for you, it's probably like
no, because my knees are so high. Like it was higher.
Oh, okay.
But my body was so low.
Oh my God.
I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I knew that about the bass drum thing, but his tech actually, there's a video of his tech going through the kit on YouTube.
I think that went by in my like suggested things to watch one night. Yeah.
Yeah. So we should give a shout out to DW Drums.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Champagne Sparkle. You got the last ones ever made, I think, right?
So I can't believe you remember that. Yeah. I got the Dweezil gig and I needed to add a 13 and an 18. So I called them. I talked to John Good, who's the greatest, and I said, I need to, I don't have enough money to get a new kit. Can I add on to this? He was like, of course. What finish? And I told him, and he's like, ooh, because they switched to glass glitters.
Right.
And he goes, hold on. He's like, let me call you back. And he called back like an hour later, and he was like, I have enough Champagne Sparkle to make you the last 2 Champagne Sparkles we ever make.
It's in this water bottle, but I'll be able to do those 2 drums for you. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. They're over here in the corner. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And DW's been awesome.
Yeah. And also Sabian. We're both Sabian artists.
Yeah. Sabian.
Always the best.
Huge shout out to Chris Stanky's the greatest. Yeah.
The best.
Yeah, and actually, Dweezil and I went over and got his whole studio outfitted with all new awesome Sabian stuff like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, beautiful!
But yeah, so Chris Stanky and Dweezil and I hung out for a couple hours and picked out stuff. And I gotta tell you, what's more fun than picking out cymbals? Picking out cymbals when someone else is buying them.
Nice. Yeah, and
I was like, this one sounds great. Dweezil's like, yeah, cool, we'll get that. I was like, cool. This one also sounds great.
So do all of those.
Yeah.
So like, and also Stanky was very, very close with Neil. and
Very
with
close.
Neil
Yeah.
Peart, and was teaching his daughter drums,
Yeah.
which is amazing, right? So, um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Chris is the best. Yeah.
yeah, he's the best.
Yeah. So yeah,
He's the
huge
man.
thank you to Sabian. Yeah.
And also
And
Evans Heads, Diodario, all good stuff. Love it, love it.
yeah, Promark, Evans.
Pro Mark Evans.
Yep. And Yamaha Electronics. I use the Yamaha multi 12 pad, and we have a kit on stage, actually a DTX kit, and Adam was playing that kit,
Oh,
and we were doing double drumming on a bunch of stuff,
oh, cool, man.
which is really fun. So yeah, and we've got some triggers and the EAD, which is amazing.
EAD is cool. Actually,
Yeah, which is super cool.
David Garibaldi uses that a lot, and he's using that for his teaching thing. And so he's just running the EAD 10 through his drum kit, and it sounds incredible. Yeah,
It sounds so
fun
good.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Great.
And who else do we have? As far as the companies we have to mention,
JH Audio
Okay.
in-ears,
right?
which I've used for 8 years and I use them on all gigs. Like anytime I play a gig, I bring a mixer, and I don't even get a wedge anymore. I just have them get an XLR and plug it right in my mixer and use my JH Audio in-ears, and
Nice.
they've been incredible. Yeah.
It's like
And
once you use in-ears, it's like, how did I ever get along without these? Like in the past, having, horrible stacks of monitors next to your head, sort of
oh yeah,
blowing you away,
Texas headphones, as somebody told me, which I love that term.
Texas
And,
headphones.
yeah. I never used in-ears until I started playing with Dweezil. And so since he records every show, like I mentioned, they want a totally silent stage sound. So I got them, and the first couple of weeks I was very resistant. I didn't dig it. I wasn't used to it yet.
Yeah.
And then something happened around like week 2, and then I flipped, and now there's no going back.
Right.
Like I can't, like it's really hard to do it without them now. I love them. Yeah.
Very cool.
They're great. Yeah. And Morph Beats percussion. If you guys don't know Morph Beats, MORF, check out Morph Beats. Make some amazing percussion stuff. They're based in Colorado, actually, where I'm from, and we used this amazing thing that they invented called the Marvin on tour for a long time. And Adam would play the Marvin, or I would play it, and Sheila would even go and play it sometimes. And
what's the Marvin?
It's like there's different sizes of Marvin. It's actually right here. I should grab it, but it's like a cowbell, and they make it in different sizes. The cowbell, it's all steel with springs attached to it, and then some different metal contraptions, and you can bow it and get all these really, really cool sounds.
Oh, wow.
I did a session the last couple of weeks and used it on that, and it's super, super unique, really cool stuff.
Wow. The Marvin. I'm writing that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I can see the corner of it out of up here out of the box that I keep it in. Yeah.
Oh man.
Massive thanks to all those companies that have been amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's it makes what we do so much better, having that kind of support, but also getting to play the best instruments on the planet. It's just like so inspiring. Like hitting beautiful cymbals just makes what you do that much better, to just express what you're doing.
It is, yeah. It's like you said, it's very inspiring, very, very inspiring. Makes you want to, play more, and it makes you think of other ideas and be creative, and
right.
And on top of all of that, and being the best companies, and then being the best people behind them, and just being amazing people. That's also invaluable. So yeah, huge thanks to all of them.
100%. So before we wrap up, so I have your website listed in the description of the video.
Thank
Are
you.
there any any things coming up specifically that you just want to give a quick plug to? Anything in particular, maybe that an event or show or recording or
Oh, hey, well, thanks. Yeah. So I'll keep everybody posted on Dweezil dates. I know we're going to start working on some stuff in his studio soon, so I'll keep everybody posted on that. Yeah, definitely since we talked about it for a while, thanks for asking about it. Check out the Karam stuff, and I should know his website, but you can find him through me. But yeah, KERAM. Check
Right.
that out. I also, the last couple of weeks, have been doing an awesome project with one of my best friends, a bass player and multi-instrumentalist here in LA named Fede Delfino. And we've been working on his record that I believe is going to be called Madman Theory.
Wow.
So I'll be posting about that. I posted some clips of that, but yeah, we tracked drums over at Westlake, which is where a lot of the Michael Jackson stuff was recorded. So that was fun. I did 14 songs in one day, which was my record. 13 was my record for years, and I told him, I was like, we have to do 14. I got to beat my record.
Oh, that's great.
So we've been doing percussion on that. So that will be coming up. So I'll post about that. And yeah, if anybody wants to take lessons or anything like that, hit me up. I do that also, and it's
Absolutely.
always fun to talk about drums and drummers
100%.
and music.
Oh my God.
That's what we do. It's the best. Yeah.
I appreciate, you taking the time to do this. You've been so generous with your time, and it's been super fun. I often forget that we're live streaming and we're just chatting about drums together, which I could do all day. But it's just been really fun, and I know you and I will continue to talk, and if you ever need tech help with live streaming or any of that kind of stuff, I'm always working on it. So anytime. And I kind of feel like, down the road at some point, some of my favorite interviews, I want to have people come back. So I'm putting you on the spot. One day you will come back and do this again.
That would be amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me. And it could be fun. We could have like a theme, or like have some of your fans write in and say like, hey, go over these 5 Zappa songs or something.
Yeah, we'll get you playing.
And we could, yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, we could do something like that too. Yeah, but yeah, anybody watching has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And if you have any Zappa related questions or gear or whatever it is, that'd be awesome.
Definitely.
And thanks for tuning in. And Jim, thanks so much for having me.
It's been the best.
Truly an honor to be here and have fun over the next couple of weeks with those other guests, especially Ralph, who I'm lucky enough to try to emulate for my job.
Yeah.
So
in any given night, emulating the likes of Vinnie Colaiuta, Terry Bozzio, Ralph Humphrey, Chester Thompson. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
So we're amazed with your skill set. So I just have to say that as well as we sign off. But yeah, it's been super fun, man. And we'll do it again.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, thank you. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks for having me. And everybody, go listen to Frank Zappa.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.